Richards, would you please take the roll?
Morning, members of the committee. Representative Alman, Representative Angelos, Representative Haroldson. Here. Representative Pendergraft.
Here.
Representative Sherwood. Representative Smith.
Here.
Senator Driscoll. Senator French.
Here.
Senator Guru.
Here.
Senator Larson. Co-Chairman Salazar.
Here.
Mr. Chairman.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you do have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Ms. Chasten, do we have, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ms. Chasten, I have the right person. Sorry, I'm a little cold brain here. Are we online? Thank you. Director Richards, do you have some announcements you'd like to share with the public?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, as well as for the benefit of the public, we do have a couple of minor changes to the schedule today, recognizing the speed at which some of the agencies are proceeding through their hearings. We have moved the Department of Revenue from the afternoon to 10 a.m. And we've also, a callback of the Board of Medicine is going to be delayed until tomorrow. And finally, although it states on the agenda, the Wyoming Oil and Gas Conservation Commission will commence at 1 p.m. If you are moving briskly, they will be prepared to testify this morning rather than this afternoon. I would also note that there are 8 members of the public that have signed up for public comment tomorrow. And as a notice to the public, there is a 5 p.m. deadline for indicating an intention to comment 5 p.m. today if you intend to comment by, or if you intend to comment tomorrow.
And Director, that would be comment online. If they do come here tomorrow, what is the deadline if they're in person?
Excellent point. If they are in person, there is no deadline anytime before you commence public comment.
And that public comment is scheduled for when?
The public comment is scheduled for 11 a.m. And at the discretion of the chairs, we try to hold that fairly static. You might take some activities from the afternoon. For example, some of your agency callbacks might be earlier. I suspect, and I don't mean to speak for Co-Chairman Hibbard, I suspect our Craig presentation will be less than an hour and a half, which is on the schedule. However, the letters from the Superintendent of Public Instruction, the Judiciary, the State Treasurer's Office, and the Governor's Office might go a little bit longer than we had anticipated.
Okay. Thank you for that notice. We appreciate that. Mr. Co-Chair, do you have any opening statements you'd like to make?
I do not.
I don't have any either, so let's get to work. Director Richards, please get us started.
Mr. Chairman, the first agency before you today is Agency 42 in your books, the Wyoming Geologic Survey. Rainey Lenz, the interim director and interim state geologist, is here as well as support from the Department of Administration and Information, which provides fiscal services to the agency.
Welcome to Joint Appropriations Committee. Budget hearings. We're anxious to hear from you. So please introduce yourself to the committee and the public. And just as a matter of business, I don't know if you've been watching how we've been operating, but what we'd like for you to do is you go through your budget, any TRP requests, we've covered those with ETS, so you don't need to cover those today. If you have exception requests, we prefer that you go in page order for your exception requests first, after your opening statement, of course. And then we will have time for you to speak with the committee generally about your agency, and then we'll wrap things up. So thank you. Welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chairman, and members of the committee. Good morning. My name is Rainey Lenz. I am the interim state geologist and director of the Geological Survey. I've worked at the survey for 14 years, and I've been in this interim position for since August. I'd also like to thank a few people who've worked on our budget. Most of them are here today, so I'll introduce them at the same time. First off, former director Aaron Campbell, who's not here. ANI's accounting division, with whom we have a new and very productive working relationship, which I'll explain as we get to the exception requests, including Administrator Rory Horsley, who's behind me, and Principal Accountant Barb Wallace, who's next to me. Director Hibbard and the staff at the State Budget Department, CIO Kleins and the staff at ETS, Tammy Mack, our administration manager, and Jim Stafford, our geologic manager, neither of whom could make it due to the weather. And the WSGS has an advisory board, and President Joanne True is here today behind me as well. So, I do want to take a second to just, thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and let you know that our agency really values the work that you do. We know it's difficult, and you have a lot. Your tasks are hard, and we really value the work that you do on Wyoming's resources. So unless you have questions, I can go into a summary of what the survey does in our role in state government, or we can go directly to the exception
I think
request.
because we have so many new members, it would be helpful. Yours is one of the more obscure
Yeah.
agencies. I've been in both minerals and revenue and seen much of what you do. So,
Yeah.
But I think the committee would do well to hear a summary of your agency.
Fantastic. Mr. Chairman, so the Wyoming State Geological Survey has actually served in one form or another as Wyoming's statutorily mandated, non-regulatory geoscience agency for more than 120 years. We have a current staff of 20, and our core function is to provide unbiased foundational data on Wyoming's mineral resources and geologic hazards. Our work translates directly into reduced risk and increased economic certainty for the state. By making clear maps and data universally accessible, we eliminate the need for every private entity, county, and municipality to spend millions on proprietary studies. These publicly available data de-risk private investment and allow local governments to plan infrastructure and manage growth responsibly, saving taxpayer and state dollars in the long run. And I'd like to take a minute to speak to the subject of publicly available data. Part of the mission of the survey is to not only collect data, but to interpret it and preserve it. And we do that in several ways, and I think you might be interested in a few of them. One way is through our publications warehouse. We currently have 1,730 publications freely available for download on our website. 37 of those were published in 2025. So this is a live warehouse. The bulk of these publications have associated data like geochemistry and geochronology. In 2025, we averaged about 400 downloads from our website each day. So this is a very active website. We're also in the middle of a significant modernization effort for all of our geologic data. Our goal is to have the data digital, findable, searchable, and easily available. So keep an eye on our website in the coming year, because you'll see big changes to the way users will be able to access geologic data. And we're the state repository for 2 items of interest. And one of those is any mineral data that's collected from state-owned land. So following state statute, companies send us their exploration data. We keep it confidential for 3 years, and then it's available to the public. We're also the repository for scientifically important fossils collected on state-owned lands. And we're putting significant efforts towards a public-facing database of our collection so that it can be used by researchers worldwide. And Wyoming really does have a world-class fossil heritage. We have exceptional preservation and species diversity in the Green River Formation in Western Wyoming. We also have the greatest species diversity of dinosaur fossil material in the US, as well as the oldest known assemblage of dinosaur material. So it was really work in Wyoming that shaped paleontology as a discipline. And that work really continues today. As most of you know from having lived here most, if not all of your lives, Wyoming's geology really underpins its economy. And I'd like to say that the work that we do at the survey it's the technical precursor to any economic activity that generates severance tax and royalty revenue for the state. We have the world's largest trona deposits, the largest known uranium reserves in the US. We annually produce about 1/4 of the world's helium supply and 2/3 of the US bentonite supply. Wyoming ranks first among states in coal production, 7th in crude oil, and 10th in natural gas. And the foundation of much of what we do at the survey is geologic mapping. And so we use geologic maps as a visualization tool to clarify complex geology and provide high resolution information needed to do things like identify high potential mineral targets or mitigate geologic hazards like landslides and fault zones, as well as plan safe and resilient infrastructure such as roads, pipelines, and buildings. And currently, only 16% of Wyoming is mapped at an appropriate scale. This means that across more than 80% of the state, decision makers are working with incomplete data. So our effort, we've made a conscious effort to address this issue. And one way we are accelerating our mapping efforts is through airborne geophysical surveys. These surveys use technology that allow us to sort of see through the Earth's surface with some interpretation, of course, identifying mineral targets and structures that are invisible to the naked eye. And this technology has really been a force multiplier for our mapping program. And if it pleases the committee, I would like to take a moment to discuss the status of airborne geophysical surveys in Wyoming. For those of you who are new to this, or for those of you who are on this committee in the previous biennium, you'll recall that Dr. Campbell presented on the status of these surveys, and a lot has happened in the last 2 years, and I can provide you with an update if
Please
you'd like.
proceed, yes.
All right. So you all should have received a map. Looks like this.
We did. We did.
Excellent, Mr. Chairman. So this is sort of a complicated graphic showing the status of airborne geophysical surveys in the state. So let me take a minute to walk you through it. So first, let's look at the map of Wyoming. You'll see that the map has several different polygons on it. Each polygon represents a different geophysical survey, and they are labeled by their survey name. And these polygons are colored by their status. So let's start with the most interesting ones. And those are the multicolored polygons, of which there are 3. And they're showing the completed magnetic and radiometric geophysical surveys. The colors represent how magnetic the rocks are. So the reds and the pinks are much more magnetic than the blues and the greens. These data sets are available for download by anyone, and we know they're currently being used for exploration as well as the focus of several studies by graduate students. All right, so now let's look at the polygons in green. Those are surveys that have been flown. The data have been delivered to the U.S. Geological Survey, and the data sets will be published and available to the public soon. I'm hoping in the coming months. The area in blue in Northeast Wyoming has been partially flown, and it will be completed next summer. So the data will come out after that. And then finally, there are some polygons outlined in red. These represent a different type of geophysical survey called an electromagnetic survey. And those data will look a lot different. And those surveys are both sort of in process and in planning. I've also shown you a graph on the top left of funding type for these surveys by year. And I organized it by year because I think it illustrates an important story. You'll see that funding from the U.S. Geological Survey is in green on the left side for each year. And the state of Wyoming funding is in blue. And in 2021, that little blip of blue was $50,000 that the state put towards the first small survey in the Medicine Bow Mountains that allowed the survey footprint to increase in size. The USGS actually took note of the state's interest in this and redirected their efforts towards Wyoming. So each time we receive state funding to put towards the geophysical surveys, the USGS has reciprocated with additional funding. So I do want to take a moment to thank you all, to thank this committee, the legislature and the governor for your foresight, because this has really made a difference in Wyoming. And once these surveys are complete, once the ones you see on the map are complete, 20% of Wyoming will be covered by rank 1 geophysical data. And before I stop, there's just one thing I want to highlight, and it is that geology doesn't stop at state borders. So you'll see that 2 of these surveys have gone into other states. And I want to make it clear that both of these were fully funded by the U.S. Geological Survey. No Wyoming state dollars went towards surveys across the state. And and when I'm showing you the graph of funding, I've only extracted the part of the funding that was for Wyoming. So
Mr. Chairman.
With that,
Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that description. So just to clarify, the helicopters with the wild array being towed by it is what is doing these surveys, correct?
Mr.
Director?
Chairman, Representative, so that is an electromagnetic survey, and that is just in the area in red. The helicopters that have the stinger out the front, those are the magnetic and radiometric surveys.
Okay.
And yes, so you've
Perfect.
probably seen them.
Follow up.
Please.
I got a call from a constituent freaking out. So yes, I have seen them. And it is interesting. Obviously, we've got a big pile of rock right next to us, and it's fun to see that we're exploring that as a possibility. So thank you for the work you guys are doing on making that reality.
I have a couple of questions, but I'll let, since we've got a break going on here, is there anyone else in the committee that has a question right now or a comment? Seeing none, we'll get you going here in just a second. Could you just briefly tell us what other states are doing as far as geological survey? How many states have a geological survey and are as active as ours is in Wyoming?
Mr. Chairman, I wish I knew the exact number, so I can't say that.
That's
But
okay.
I think it's almost every state has a geologic survey.
Okay.
I believe Hawaii doesn't. And there is a very active Association of American State Geologists. They meet several times a year, and you know, they're sort of advocating for geoscience, you know, across the states. Surveys are organized differently in different states. Some are associated with universities. Some are standalone agencies like ours. Some are in a Department of Natural Resources. And yeah, I mean, I think that in most states they were started very early because it helped, you know, it helped the states from the beginning.
You mentioned that Wyoming is really sufficiently mapped in 16%. Can you give us an idea of what some other states you're aware of, where they're at in their mapping?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think they're probably pretty similar. There are some states that have had concentrated efforts to map at the appropriate scale. So I think Kentucky is one of them. The entire state is mapped at that scale.
Okay.
But that's pretty rare. Maps are slow. They take a long time. I mean, the fastest you could possibly do it is maybe a year. 2 years is probably ideal per map. So, you know, that's a lot of time on the ground.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Mr. Co-Chair.
So a couple things. First of all, thank you so much for your office and what you do. I especially want to thank the advisory board, a great group of people, and I thank them for their dedication. Let me ask you one question, and this is a little bit off maybe, but petroglyphs. And I know there's been at least a couple people coming to me about documenting those things. Do you have any thoughts either way on that? You're out in the field, you're seeing these incredible things, but can you talk to me just a little bit if you have any thoughts on that?
Interim Director Lynn.
Chairman. So we don't work with petroglyphs. So that would be more with the archaeology department.
Okay.
But we have had talks with them recently about, you know, documenting what we see when we're out, because, you know, we're out in places where there aren't many people sometimes, and we do see things that that might not have been documented. So we are trying to work with the state archaeologists to make sure that we document that going forward.
Well, again, thank you so much for what you do, and especially the advisory board and their dedication as well. Thank you.
All right. Please proceed.
All right. So let's move on to our exception requests, of which we have two. Of course, one is the TRP, so I will skip over that. The second is a personnel request on page 16. This is a negative exception request for $186,183. This is to move our accounting position from our agency to A&I's accounting division. This really benefits us. I believe it benefits the state. It benefits the accounting division as well. We now have we now have the expertise that we need at the state level. And it's just, significantly more efficient for everybody. So we see this as a win-win.
Okay, questions on this exception request? Seeing that, I'm going to go to Director Hibbard and ask, where are we at as far as consolidating those types of positions into A&I? This one seems a little later than most.
Mr. Chairman, in specificity, when we see a environment that requires an independent accounting function, we make those recommendations. What I mean by that is there needs to be a three-legged stool. And we know that this is complicated when you get into smaller state governments and cities and towns. But you need to have the budget instrument that defines what the appropriation is, and that's what we're working on today. You have the accounting function, you have the audit function. That's the three-legged stool. Anytime that you cross those over, you have exposure to fraud. And there's nothing here to discuss about that today. But that's where the exposure lies. So if you have that independence, then you have a greater expectation of being able to avoid that. When we were working with the Gaming Commission, before it was a Gaming Commission, this was one of those areas where we identified that we needed to have a necessity of establishing that three-legged stool. That's where A&I volunteered to come in and assist us with gaming. So they do the accounting and there's a lot of money going on inside of that. So we did that strategically. And then we also are open to agencies' collaborations. In this case, the Geological Survey thought that they would get a higher level of expertise and better function by working with A&I. So it's where it is a necessity, where we see it, and then also on a volunteer basis like the one that we experience here today. But there is no overarching idea about fully consolidating the financial function, because you take the Department of Health, they're well established, Department of Family Services, Department of Transportation. This is just on a case-by-case basis, or if the merit, like with gaming, needed to have it happen.
Okay. Thank you for that summary. Other questions on this exception request? This only exception request? I have a couple of questions that are general in nature. You had mentioned that you hold on to private data that's submitted to you for 3 years. Is that private data statutorily required to come to you?
Mr. Chairman, yes, it is.
Okay. And then I noticed on the map that, or the funding, that recently we started to see private funding. Can you explain that private funding that we saw in 2024?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In 2024, when we were given funding from you all, from the legislature, to continue some of these geophysical surveys, we put a call out to industry saying, we would love it if you would participate. In return, you get to keep that data for a year and then it becomes public. And we had one company do that. And that's what that funding is.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's very exciting because it makes it a larger area that we can cover. And it's better for everybody in the end.
All right.
Mhm.
All right. Is there more that you'd like to cover since we've covered that exception request?
No, sir.
Any other general questions for Director Lind? Senator French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a whiny request from me on your map. The small box you cut out my county up there in the northwest part of the state, so I can't see anything that's going on up there in my county. So maybe you could make that a little smaller so I can see my county. Thank you.
Yeah, watch your map legends, I guess, huh? All right, anything else? Representative Harrelson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So question, obviously, we're seeing a shift federally as we're seeing the administration saying, hey, we need to be focusing on these different mineral content type advancements. We're seeing manufacturing going up on that list. We're seeing rare earths needing to come home type of deal. We're realizing national security wise, these are issues. Have we seen, and maybe this is a question for Director Hibbert as well, are we seeing federal funds, because this is a very heavy general fund, are we seeing any federal funds to help with the surveying and stuff beyond what we've already seen here? Are we seeing more saying, hey, let's develop a really solid and broad understanding of what we have in the Terra that can be brought into production? What are we seeing there? Are we seeing anything coming? Maybe One Big Beautiful Bill. I noticed you said really no change on your report on One Big Beautiful Bill, but can you talk to me about if we're seeing anything coming on the federal side besides just that, the US or UGSG funding for surveying? Do we have any more coming down the pike that might affect or we might see actually come into our budget lines on that?
Interim Director Lind.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harrison, that's a very good question. And this funding so the funding that we get for this is through the U.S. Geological Survey. And this has all been part of a program called Earth MRI, Mapping Resources Initiative, cleverly named. They had received a very big amount of funding, a large amount for like 5 or 6 years. So that's why these funding numbers have been very high. That is set to expire this year. So we're expecting funding to actually be cut back, despite, you know, the effort by the administration to understand, you know, the resources within the states. That said, there's also work through that program that is aimed at, you know, sort of boots on the ground mapping, geochemistry work. We have a huge project in the Medicine Bows with 600 or 700 samples. All that's going to be coming out soon. That'll be a big game changer for anybody working there. And so we're trying to do that all over the state as we can. But it takes money and it takes time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A follow up on that. So when
Please
we're
follow
looking at your dotted line of planning in progress and then your acquisition in progress, those and you're saying the money's drying potentially, but this is where we're wanting to get. We're wanting to get up in basically up through that Hartville uplift up into that Black Hills region with a potential. Where's the funding for that? Looking forward, are we at a point where we're seeing the funding for that in place? Or is it a deal where you're like, I see a desert coming financially in the surveying side of things? And are we waiting to kind of maybe get back some of that information in green to kind of get an idea of are we actually seeing what we're wanting to see? Is this technology working how we're wanting it to work? Kind of just maybe talk a little on that.
Ms. Lind.
Mr. Chairman, Representative. So that's a very good question. I was trying to, you know, go quickly and make it clear, but I didn't make that clear. And so everything on here has been funded. So the dotted line, the dotted red line has funding for it through the U.S. Geological Survey. This is not Wyoming funds for this one. Just the exact area that it will cover hasn't quite been defined. So that polygon will probably I hope it goes a little further to the northwest and covers Bear Lodge. So right now it's missing that. So I think as we go forward, we will see much smaller geophysical surveys in the state that are funded by the USGS. They'll be more like the one in the Medicine Bows, which is, it's kind of hard to see on this map, but it's a little, you know, it's a lot smaller than these other ones. It was more of a $500,000 survey than a $2 million survey. So I think, you know, we will keep working towards that and we'll keep hitting our highest priority areas as we go forward.
Director Hibbert.
Mr. Chairman, there is a significant federal interest in getting the reliance off of China, for example, with the rare earth minerals. But we will provide you that opportunity scan and show you the details that we've collaborated to collect. Thank you.
Okay. Any follow-up? Okay. Senator Guru.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. Just a quick question. You said you had one private entity is giving you their data. They keep it for 1 year and then it becomes public, so they get to hold it. Just talk to me a little bit about that program. Do you think, is that the sweet spot, 1 year? Should it be longer? Should it be shorter? Are you seeing more companies coming to the table? Because to me, it seems that, there, in other areas, I see the current administration is moving to privatize some things like weather especially, where they're moving to private companies and holding it. With this data, I think it'd be better if we held it for the historical significance that it has. I think it is with weather too, but they're going the other way there. But with this, do you see do you see private industry coming to you more? Or is it, do you see there's a disconnect there? Or is there something we can do? Is there something that's off that they're not coming to the table? Let's just talk a little bit about that.
Director Lynn?
Mr. Chairman, Representative or Senator Garu, I think that so we have seen interest from the private sector. The scale that we collect these data at, so a rank 1 geophysical survey generally is flown at a 200-meter line spacing. If a company is going to say, look for a nickel deposit, they will fly at a much tighter line spacing. So they're using this public data set to narrow in on an area. So this is really sort of leveling the playing field for all the companies who can then go in and say, okay, I need to investigate a specific area in a lot more detail. So we're really excited that we had a company who was interested in participating in our program. I think that they're getting the benefit of data in an area that, other people are going to want to see it. And there's going to be a hole when our data come out. And there's going to be a hole in the data for a year. And, they're benefiting from that. But in the end, this is public data. And the data will be available for everybody. There's just, a bit of a time lag.
Hello?
Please.
So do you see other companies? I mean, so you produce at a scale that kind of gives them a general direction. Then they come in at a much, and throw a lot more resources at it. But then after a year, you get that information. So as the years roll by, we end up with a lot bigger data set. Do you see other companies, if they see this working for this company, or do you see other companies coming, or is there something we need to do, should be doing differently to try to get them to be more interested?
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Senator, it's a good question. We haven't had those discussions with other companies. There are other states that have had large geophysical surveys that have been jointly flown by very large mineral exploration companies. So I don't know how to attract that other than letting people know that this is happening. We don't have another survey that's planned. So, if there were state fund, it doesn't even have to be state funds. If there were federal funds for a new survey, we are certainly, open to anybody who's wanting to add on to that one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Seeing none, if you have any closing statements, now would be the time.
Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you very much for being here. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. All right. With that being wrapped up, Director Richards, our next order of business, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the next agency before you is Agency 20 in your books, the Department of Environmental Quality. Director Todd Parfit is here to present with his team.
Welcome, Director Parfit. Appreciate you joining us here, JAC. Look forward to hearing your budget proposal.
All right.
As soon as you're ready, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Todd Parfit. I'm the Director of the Department of Environmental Quality. I've been with the agency for 32 years. Been the director for the last 13. We do have a team here, and I'll introduce each of the administrators and the deputy director. Nancy Veer is our deputy director to my left. To my right is Kimber Wickman. She is the administrator for the Management Services Division. Air Quality is Amber Potts. The administrator for water is Jennifer Zigmund. The administrator for the Solid and Hazardous Waste Division is Suzanne Engels. And then Jenny Staben is the Industrial Siting Division Administrator. And then the Abandoned Mine Lands Division is Don Newton. And I've asked them to be here in case I get questions that I don't know the answer to.
Very good. Welcome to all of you.
Oh, I'm sorry. And then for Land Quality Division, Brandy O'Brien. So just a little bit of update before I get into the budget exception request. The primary functions of the agency are to issue permits for activities that have impact to public health or the environment. We also provide compliance assistance. We have monitoring programs, and then we have programs that do reclamation. In addition to that, we review and comment on federal actions in all of the program areas. And then we participate in national associations. So there's the Environmental Council of States, which is the directors from all 50 states. We talk about national issues and ensure that EPA is working with the states as they make adjustments or provide new regulations. I will say that we have a lot of primacy programs where the state actually implements the federal program. And nationally, it's about 95% of all environmental programs, national or federal environmental programs, are implemented by the states. In the recent administration, we have a very good working relationship with the new administrator of EPA, as well as with Region 8. We are seeing actions being taken to move requests or programs, materials, program amendments are actually moving now. They were being hung up in the previous administration. So that's a real positive. We do continue to push, though, with EPA for additional funding as we implement these programs, since they are federal programs that we're implementing.
Director Parfit, you just mentioned that you're seeing things break free in the current administration. What kind of pressure is that putting on your agency as these things start moving forward, as far as you're being able to respond now that things are moving?
So, Mr. Chairman, I don't see it as creating more work. I see it as acknowledging the program amendments because of new rules that we have in place or new statutes that come into place. We have to incorporate those into the programs before we can actually implement them. And now we're able to implement those programs, which we had anticipated on anyway.
Very good. Thank you.
Just real quick, for those who may be new to the committee and not familiar with the agency, just some things that are high priority right now with the agency. With air quality, we're in the middle of the beginning of the winter ozone season in the Upper Green River Basin. This is something where we had seen back in 2005 some elevated ozone levels, and typically what you see with the ozone is it's associated more with municipal areas that have summertime ozone issues as a result of emissions from automobiles and that kinds of things. So we really hadn't seen any elevated ozone. We saw it in the wintertime, though, associated with the nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds that were being emitted from the oil and gas industry in the field there. We have worked very closely with the community, with the industry, with other agencies, and we've been very successful in bringing those ozone levels down. We're in the process of bringing that area back into, it's back into attainment now, but actually formally getting the acknowledgement that it is an attainment area with EPA.
Director, could you give us an example of how you bring those levels down as you're working with the oil and gas industry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And so what industry has done is they have utilized the technology, the highest technology or best technology for drilling operations. There was a work group that we put together back in 2011, 2012, which was comprised of industry, the citizens of that area, other federal and state agencies, as well as the DEQ, and came up with a number of actions that could be done to help reduce the ozone in the area. And so that's been successful. We identified 11 actions, and I can't remember all 11, but they were all implemented successfully. And then we have a ozone action days where we can predict, and we have staff that will work pretty much 7 days a week, every day during this 90-day winter ozone timeframe to identify when we're more likely to have elevated ozone levels. And then there are ozone action plans that are implemented if that happens to ensure that we don't exceed the standard. And that works very well also.
Just for my curiosity, is the Green River Basin, is that a place where we get an inversion often, kind of like the Denver Basin?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, yeah, we do get inversions there. And the winter ozone is really a combination of things. It's when we have high snowpack, the lack of wind, which is unusual for most parts of Wyoming. But when you look at that and then the angle of the sun, all of that comes into play with the VOCs and elevated NOx, then that creates the ozone. It's a unique thing, but we're able to manage that, and fortunate that we've been able to identify in those months what can be done to keep those levels below the standard.
Very good.
In water quality, some big issues here of late. EPA has come out with a new version of the Waters of the United States. We've been commenting on that. And the real importance there for us is that it limits where the federal action or federal actions can take place. So if they're not waters of the United States, they're managed by the state rather than by EPA. In solid and hazardous waste, we are pursuing the coal combustion residual primacy. So these are the ponds and the landfills that the utilities use to manage their coal combustion residuals. And rather than having EPA do that, the state would be the implementing agency, which we do now anyway. In land quality, we are pursuing a source material program. This is with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And we are an agreement state with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission for uranium and thorium mining and milling. This source material program would be an amendment or an add-on to that amendment for agreement program with the NRC. In industrial siting, we're seeing a lot of data centers. You've probably seen the news on all of that. I think there are 16 data centers that have gone through the industrial siting process in Laramie County alone. So a lot of interest there. And then the last thing I'll say here is that Nancy Veer, who is the deputy director, also serves as the ombudsman. So as we see large industrial projects coming into the state, when they come and visit with us, we meet with them and lay out what permits that they might need depending on their activity, and help them through that system so we don't become a bottleneck. And I will also say that we, as an agency, we hold about 3.5 billion in bonds for reclamation on all of the industrial activity that goes on. Most of that is in inland quality for the mines. So with that, I'll stop and see if there's any questions before I get into the exception request.
Questions for the director? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I take you to page 4 to start. And the reason I like to go here first is with the abandoned mine land budget, it kind of skews the costs, the actual cost to run the other agency divisions. So when you look at this, the standard budget column, column 3, you'll see that the general funds make up 27% of our budget, federal funds 58%, and other funds 15%. If you take out AML, it really flips this around where the general fund is actually paying for 49% of the programs that the division implements outside of AML. And then federal funds for that is 23% and other funds 28%. It's just something that it helps me kind of keep in mind is how things are funded for the agency. Next, I would take you to page 12, which is the exception request priorities. And you'll see that there are 10 exception requests, but actually 17 because there are different parts and pieces to all of these. So for example, in priority 8 has 5 different things associated with it, but it's all really the same discussion. So with that, I will then go to the first division, which is administration. And and so the first request is for a restructure of administrative support. Right now we have receptionists, clerical support in divisions where we can't recoup the indirect cost. By moving them to the administration, that allows us to collect the indirect cost from the federal agency, whether that be EPA or the Office of Surface Mines. So this is a net zero cost shift through the indirect cost rate recovery. It's more efficient in terms of how we manage their workload and time recording. It affects 5 positions, 1 in each air, solid waste, and land, and 2 in water. And like I said, the costs are recouped through the federal and special revenue funds. The indirect cost rate is something that's negotiated annually with EPA. And that's how that would work. So what you'll see in the budget request is that when we get to air, solid waste, land, and water, there will be a reduction of an FTE and the budget because that's going to shift up to admin. So the request is for 801,524 of general funds, and it would be ongoing, and the governor recommends approval of that.
Any questions on this exception request? As we're moving through this administrative shift, if you could kind of walk us through how the funding from the federal government's going to affect that $800,000, that would be helpful. As well as, I'm looking at it as a net, all of your position changes as a net gain of one position when I look at all of your exception requests on page 12. So you just tell us which particular positions are net zero and which one leads to the one positive as you go.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And like I said, all of these positions are going to be net zero. So they'll be added to administration, but taken from the other divisions.
And you said that this is going to allow you to achieve more federal funding. So what could we anticipate this $801,000 being offset by federal funds as you do that?
Mr. Chairman, I believe it's around 350,000.
So a net of 450. Okay, thank you. Net of 450 in general funds is what I meant to say there. Go ahead, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, it's recouped through our indirect rate when we go for the grants with the feds. So it's a more complex process because it fits in with the SWI cap that happens through the budget office as well. So we would expect to see pretty much all of this 108 to be recouped, which is more than what we're seeing today with them being in those individual divisions. And I don't know if Director Hibbert can speak more to that.
Director Hibbert?
Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to. It's a pleasure working with the Department of Environmental Quality on the indirect cost allocation and also the SWI cap. All indirect cost allocations have to be approved by the state budget department. And like I said, it's a pleasure working with DEQ. If you go to page 4 of the budget, you'll see overall in the SWI cap area is $5.2 million. It's $5,228,993. That's the allowable cost that's recoverable from the Department of Environmental Quality, whether it happens to be federal funds or special revenue funds. The important thing to note here is that all direct costs are still reimbursed for the positions as the positions are funded in the budget. I'll share that with you again. When you have a position that's federally funded, the direct cost of the labor and benefits is allocated to the federal government. But on top of that, we capture an administrative cost, either through the SWI cap or through the indirect cost allocation that is arbitrated. Now, in the case of Department of Environmental Quality, the statewide cost allocation provides a allowable cost that they can include in their arbitration to establish their rate. Maybe their rate last year was 10%, and they go through the arbitration and the cost allocation makes it 11%. So the statewide cost allocation is a function of their indirect cost. Now, they take the statewide cost allocation, they take the direct bills that they're allowable by the Fed, and they also include their agency's administrative cost center, this case moving up to the admin, so that they can recover a percentage of that in their admin budget. That's pretty complicated, but it's basically that simple.
So
in my mind.
So either of you can possibly answer this. If we, the status quo is costing us how much in potential federal funds? That's the question I'd like to know.
Mr. Chairman, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 to $300,000. We're taking advantage of this. What we're saying is that we want to recover more of the administrative function cost of the Department of Environmental Quality. We're taking the burden off the general fund and putting it on the Fed. But that's a marginal amount that's on the indirect cost allocation and the admin rate. But I just don't want you to forget that the full cost of the positions that are allowable to the Fed are recovered naturally with the benefits. And the statewide cost allocation that we calculate becomes a function of their administrative cost arbitration. So what we've done here, and I do appreciate this, and we worked hard on this, is that we are maximizing the amount of money that we can take off the general fund and place on the federal programs where allowed.
Is that clear as mud for everybody? All right, please proceed.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next item is actually a TRP, so we can, yeah, we can skip that one on page 19. On page 20, we have, and this isn't covered by the TRP. This is priority number 2, and it's for IT subscription services. And what we're seeing is that we have 22 subscriptions. Some of them are the same, some are an increase or a decrease. But we do use enterprise system agreements where it's possible. The net difference from the standard budget is 25,000. All of this has been discussed with and approved with ETS, and those approval numbers would be provided at the time of the purchase request. So again, the request is for 25,775 for general funds, and this would be an ongoing cost.
And Director, are any of these time sensitive where we've got to get it done now to make sure that the software continues to operate?
Yes, so Mr. Chairman, you know, these are annual subscriptions, and so if we don't fund all of these, then we're not current with the subscription, and we may not be able to utilize those systems as we need.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions on this exception request? Seeing none, please proceed.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next request is on page 21. This is priority 9. This is the Department of Justice Americans with Disability Act rule, which became final in April of 2024 for web site and mobile applications. We discussed this with the CIO and the ETS director, and these are systems that are not housed or covered by ETS, so there would be no duplication. But we have broken this out is that we would first make the website that we our DEQ website compliant with DOJ's Americans with Disability Act. The cost for that would be was estimated at 200,000, and then we have 14 other systems that have to be evaluated to see what changes need to be made to make those compliant with the ADA. And so there's a request for $50,000 to do that analysis. And so the request is for 250,000 of general funds. This would be one-time funding for that.
And Director, do you know, is there a time limit on when we have to be in compliance with the DOJ?
Yeah, I believe, I actually, I don't recall the date that they have to be compliant by.
Director Hibbert, I know we've got several of these, and that I have not asked that question before. So.
Mr. Chairman, that was provided in the testimony from the Department of ETS. We're past the deadline.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, the deadline is, I believe, April of 2026.
So you've got a little bit of time, okay, but only till April of this year. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Probably won't get that done if we're funding it now.
Mr. Chairman.
Director?
You are correct that this is in a lot of different places. Some of it is standalone in the agencies. ETS has approved that, and also there's an enterprise-wide lift inside of ETS's budget for this as well. State Budget Department, we're in the process of a petition on the statewide cost allocation to make this a allocable cost and then seek reimbursement through the statewide cost allocation, and also therefore allowing that to be an allowable cost for arbitration, for example, with Department of Environmental Quality, so that we can recover that as an administrative cost. This is a federal government mandate, and our intention is to petition and succeed in that petition to have this cost recovered.
Very well. Thank you. Representative Sherwood.
Thank you. To that end, I mean, this is something I've been concerned with in terms of opening us up to liability by not meeting this deadline. But my question for Director Hibbard is, does it strengthen or weaken your negotiation strategy, our decision on whether or not to fund these ADA requests? Thank you.
Director Hibbard.
Mr. Chairman, first, the risk has been mitigated through the ETS and our conversations with the federal government with collaboration with the Attorney General's office. We have notified that. We're in the process. As long as they see that we have a good faith effort moving forward on this collaboratively, then they're going to give us the bandwidth that we need to implement this. We recognize the value of this program, but it will not make any difference if you appropriate the money and then we seek reimbursement through an indirect cost allocation, period, because this is typical. All things happen with us funding it. For example, anything like in the budget department, you give us general fund money, we cost allocate it. In this case, you're giving us general fund money, we cost allocate it. That's not going to interrupt or interfere with our negotiations, and I do not believe it will have any impact on the negotiations that they have at the DEQ with their indirect cost allocation.
Okay. Follow up? Okay, seeing none. All right, any other questions right now on this exception request? Seeing none, please proceed.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This takes us to the Air Quality Division, Unit 200. And it'll take you to page 31. This is priority number 3, air quality, NSR modeling and permitting support. We have an estimate of 8 PSD applications in the biennium. These are significant a permit. What is that?
Major source prevention.
Prevention of significant deterioration permits. So these are majors, and they're more complicated than our normal permitting for new source review. And there's an estimated modeling cost of $62,500 per application. And we don't have that expertise in-house. And so we have to go out to consultants to do this work. And this would be, as an example of the types of facilities we're talking about with the new trona mines. We'll have to do the modeling for that. There are some power plants that we'll have to do the modeling with as well for those permit application reviews. This would be incorporated into the NSR fee that is assessed. Right now, there's an application fee of $1,000 plus the hourly rate for the application, which averages about 10 hours, so just over $1,000 for the processing of the application. So currently an NSR permit application, it would average around $2,000 as the fee to process that. So we'd see about a $100 increase in that average fee is what it would amount to. So the request, $500,000 of other funds, so it would be an NSR fee authorization to spend, and it would be an ongoing cost.
Senator Grew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just want to make sure I got this. So by doing this, then what I own a trona mine, I come in my application, the ability for you to do this is going to help me get this permit done faster. If it's not there, what happens? Does it fall back? We have primacy here. So are we ceding that back to the federal EPA to do it? Or or what?
So,
Director Hibbert.
Mr.
Go ahead,
Chairman,
Director. Perfect.
no, we wouldn't be turning it back to EPA. It's a timing issue, and we would have to find, we need the authorization to spend. And so we would be limited to what we could do in a particular biennium by what we're authorized to spend, or we would have to
Okay.
find other sources.
Just
Thank you.
Just to be clear, Director Parfit or Director Hibbert, this could be B11 if we didn't get it done in the legislature. Is that correct? Since it is
Mi-
SR funds.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that is the case, that we could be 11 it.
Right. So spending authority, all right? Any other questions? Okay, please proceed.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, the next exception request also starts on page 31, but this is the administrative support restructure for the indirect that we've already talked about. But this is where you'll see the reduction. The request is for a reduction of 148,762 in the 100 series, plus the FTE would shift up to administration. So that would be an ongoing request. And that takes us to water quality, page 42. And this is not part of the reorganization. And so this would actually be an additional FTE. What the request is for, and this is priority number 5, a water quality groundwater environmental geologist 11 for the underground injection control program for the class 6 carbon sequestration. We obtained primacy for the class 6 UIC program in 2020. We were the second state to obtain primacy. North Dakota was first. There are a total of 6 states today that have primacy for the class 6 program. And there are another 16 that are pursuing it. EPA is actually encouraging states to take primacy for this program and for implementation. When we obtained primacy, what we had discussed with the legislature at the time was that we would request positions as the need arose rather than trying to create a staffing level in anticipation of growth over time. And so that's what we're doing here. This would take the class 6 UIC staff from 4 FTE to 5 to support the increasing workload that we're seeing. Right now, we have 17 applications in-house. Each application is for a well. So each well is its own facility or application. We've issued 10. We expect for this biennium that we will have 35 applications. And what that does, it translates to 70 permit applications or 70 permit actions rather, because you have a permit to construct and then you have to modify that with a permit or authorization to inject. So there are 2 permitting actions that occur. Current staff can manage between 12 and 24 permits. We would need a minimum of 1 to 2 FTE. We're requesting 1 to keep pace at 35 applications. Now, when I say at pace, right now, the expectation is that we can issue these permits in 8 to 10 months, each action. So 8 to 10 months for the permit to construct and 8 to 10 months for the permit to inject or the modification to inject. EPA runs about 2 to 5 years to do that. So that's the target. It's once we issue the permit, there's ongoing monitoring and compliance activities that also occur. And just to give you a little bit of background, the application fee for the construction and injection is $50,000 on average. And that money goes to the general fund. And in addition, we collect a 7 cent per ton of injected CO2 for when that permit transfers to the state. So at the end of the project life, that those funds would be available for our long-term care and maintenance. The other thing that I'll,
Sorry to interrupt.
go ahead.
Could you explain that long-term maintenance that you're collecting that 7 cents per ton on?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So when the injection ceases, so when the project is finished, there is a minimum of 20 years for stabilization of the formation, at which time the entity can apply to terminate and transfer long-term care and maintenance to the state. Before they can do that, they have to show that the site is actually stable for 3 consecutive years. And then once they do that, then the permit transfers to the state. And then we would continue to monitor that and then to remove any of the infrastructure that still exists. We would have the funding to do that through that 7 cents per ton. Okay, so Mr. Chairman, this request is for $259,253,413 is ongoing, and 6,000 is one time for office equipment and Mr. Chairman, I believe I gotta think through this, and I may ask Jennifer to. 3 are injecting. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Jennifer Zigmant, Water Quality Administrator. Sorry about that. Thank you. Jennifer Zigmant, Water Quality Administrator. So we have 3 wells that are authorized to inject, and all 3 of those are in the southeast part of the state here in Laramie County.
Okay, so one was permitted early for the injection up in Campbell County. What's the status of that well?
Mr. Chairman, I believe you're referring to the Dry Fork Station. That has been permitted as a Class 1 well.
Okay.
It is not permitted for Class 6 yet. We would need to issue a permit to convert it to Class 6. By my knowledge, there are still a ways out from getting to that point and taking an action to permit it as a Class 6 well and begin injection. So that's a project that we're aware of, but we're not expecting it in the near term.
Okay, and then there was one in the southwest part of the state that the university was involved with, or at least the School of Energy Resources. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's my cold, sorry. I'm usually not very quiet. What can you tell us about that well?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that would be referring to the Sweetwater County Hub that is operated by Frontier Carbon. I believe that had a nexus with UW and the Carbon Safe Project. Those 3 wells have been permitted to construct the wells. 2 of them are under construction, but none of them are at the injection step yet. Okay,
so they've got 1 permit complete, and they'll be coming back to you for the second permit later.
Correct.
Okay,
correct.
Very well. All right, thank you. Appreciate the update. All right, any questions or comments on this exception request? Ms. Martinell, who is the senator that represents this on our assignments for agencies? If you could tell me.
Mr. Chairman, let me look that up for you.
I know I'm your representative on the floor, and I just want to make sure that, all right, Senator Larson, just want to make sure we're getting up to speed because there's a lot of questions that will probably be coming our way. All right, thank you. I think we can continue now,
All right.
please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is the one position that would be in addition to our current staffing.
Got it.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman, the next request is priority number 6 on page 43 for a vehicle for this position. And Mr. Chairman, we are withdrawing this request for priority number 6 because there was an adjustment of $159,000 in the standard budget for permanently assigned vehicles, which we believe can be utilized to cover the cost of that vehicle. And you can see this on page 46 under object 223, permanently assigned vehicles.
Thank you.
And the next request is on page 44, priority 8C. And again, this is the administrative support restructure. There are 2 positions in water quality. So the request is to reduce the budget in water quality by $333,548 in the 100 series. And this would be ongoing.
Any questions? All right, please proceed.
So, Mr. Chairman, page 45 is the next request. It's priority 5B. And this is a TRP associated with this position. And that is for $1,700 for that equipment.
So is this the position we were just discussing?
Mr. Chairman, that's
One
correct.
additional position? Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, please proceed.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, now that takes us to the Land Quality Division. Page 52. Again, this is priority 8D in the administrative support structure. So the request is to reduce the Land Quality Division budget in 100 series by $196,892, and this would be ongoing. Next would be,
Can
well,
you give us just a little bit more detail on this one here? On this budget reduction? What has brought this budget reduction? Or is this more of the restaffing? for admin?
Mr. Chairman, this is that indirect, where the position would move to admin
Very
as
good.
well as
Okay.
the funding.
I've got it now then, all right?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, industrial siting is on page 58, but we don't have any exception requests for this unit, but I'll stop there and see if there's any questions about the industrial siting.
All right. Any questions or comments on industrial quality? Industrial siting? Okay. I have one question. What does it look like on the horizon for wind projects for this division, and how many wind projects are they getting lined up?
Mr. Chairman, well, I don't know the exact number, but Administrator Staben may be able to answer that,
Okay.
but somewhere around 6.
I'd just like to know what you see on the horizon. Because we like nice horizons in Wyoming.
Good morning, Chairman. Jenny
morning.
Staben, Administrator of Industrial Siting. As far as wind projects on the horizon, we're expecting, I would say, a handful of wind projects, probably about 3 or 4 between now and maybe second quarter of 2027.
Very good. Any questions? Representative Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you point out on the budget, where your travel is and how often you guys use the state plane?
Are you wanting that for industrial siting? or-
Industrial siting, yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that won't show up in the budget request or in the budget because the use of the plane for the council members to go to the hearings is something that is charged to the applicant.
Okay. So SR funds charged to the applicant. Okay. Does that answer your question, Representative Smith?
How frequently do they use it?
Mr. Chairman, for each industrial siting hearing. There are, what did we have last year? Six hearings, so 6 times that they would use the plane.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one clarification on the industrial siding side. So you said 3 to 4 applications that you anticipate coming in over the next year and a half, roughly. How many have currently gone through your departments and are waiting other agencies or other governance basically acceptance to go into build? Because I know in our county, there's one that had just gone through industrial sidings process and now is sitting in another avenue waiting for county commissioner approval. So how many applications have you guys approved that are not on the landscape yet, on the horizon yet, but have been approved by your department?
Please, when you're ready.
At this point in time, I believe that would be 3.
Three projects. Okay. Representative Haroldson, any follow-up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a total of roughly 6 to 7 that we're seeing that have been either discussed or have already been approved moving forward into the future. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, approximately pending construction.
Okay. Go ahead, please. Opine.
Something just to keep in mind, as far as pending construction, we do expect construction of all those pending projects to be completed by 2027.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right, we could move on from industrial siding.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So that takes us to the solid and hazardous waste division. And this is priority number 7, and it's for what's called the D sheet split reallocation. And what the issue is here is that prior to the budget fiscal year 23, the split was 38% general fund, 33% federal fund, and 29% other funds. And this is for the 100 series. Which just so happens to be the standard budget is about 10 million. So the percentages work out to accordingly. But the current post budget fiscal year 23 split is 27% general funds, 45% federal, and 28% other funds. The issue is that the actual federal award is only 3.7 million, not 4.5 million. And we need, of that, we need 700,000 for the 2 to 900 series, which only leaves, which leaves 3.3 million of federal funds for the 100 series. And I think I misspoke. It is 4 million for the federal awards. It ranges between 3.7 and 4. But the issue is that then there's 3.3 million available federal funds for the 100 series. But the way the D sheets are laid out, it's 4.5 million. And so we end up with a negative there. And so we end up short in the 100 series by 1.1 million, which can only be covered by general fund. Now, the way we've been able to handle it for the last 2 biennia is we had such high vacancy rates in other divisions that we were able to utilize those funds to cover the costs. So what we're requesting is to go back to the BFY 23 of a 38% general fund, 33% federal, and 29% other. That's really, as we see it, the only option to be able to fund the program the way it needs to be. So the request is for 1.1 million in general funds ongoing.
Okay. Questions on this exception request? So talk to us about some of the things that precipitated these changes. Is it fewer federal funds available? Is it that you've hired the people to fill those vacancies? What has brought us to this point where we need to take action?
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, and that's the thing that we haven't been able to pinpoint. What I suspect happened is that this was around the time that the ARPA funds came available. And so somewhere in this process, there was a change made, not something that we initiated, where there were one-time federal funds available. And once those one-time federal funds were gone, it just kept the same percentage. It didn't go back and revert back to where it should have been with the pre BFY 23 split.
What would it take to really pinpoint it and narrow down, figure out exactly what happened?
Mr. Chairman, I defer to
Director Hibbard?
Mr. Chairman, we'll go back in time and develop that for you. That information is carried through the transactions of the IBARs.
Will that be able to be completed before session? Because I can see this coming out on the.
I would hope that we could get that done this week.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this particular issue? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next request is on page 65. And this is still with solid and hazardous waste. Again, this is the administrative support restructure. So this is one of those positions where it's reducing the 100 series in solid waste by 122,000. And that would shift back up to admin for the position and for the 122,000.
Okay.
So it's a net zero. The next is the uranium recovery
Before you move
program.
on, I just want to ask you about travel here, because I can see in this division, we're doubling the amount of travel in this exception request.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
And I'm looking at, let's see. Out of state travel and in-state travel. In-state's just a moderate increase, but we're going from 89,000 to 160,000 on out-of-state travel. Can you explain that? This is on page 66, code 222.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure why that is there, because it's not one of the exception requests.
Go ahead, Representative Sherwood.
Thank you. I believe it is tied to the exception request number 7, that split reallocation, I believe, but I would defer to Director Hibbard to clarify that.
I think he's working on that right now.
It's the federal one.
Director Hibbard, when you're ready.
Oh. Okay, why would it be?
Mr. Chairman, I'll look into that for you.
Director Parfit, do you have some additional information? Because I'm also seeing office supplies. Significant increase too.
Mr. Chairman, I believe what's happening is there's a federal fund adjustment. But that doesn't. Mr. Chairman, I'm not certain on that. I think we're going to have to get back with you on that.
Okay. When do you anticipate you can get us some answers on that. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, this is all related to the rebalancing request in 7. And we can meet with Director Hibbert and get that back to you in detail, but it is part of the moving and restoring the funding that was there previously that is not there currently. So it's restoring it. I know it looks like a doubling, but it's really that it's been negative for over a biennium and we're trying to
So,
restore it. But
Just
is
to
that the right?
clarify that for myself and especially Senator Larson, if we went back to 2023 numbers, we would see this amount.
Correct.
Okay. Director Hibbert?
Mr. Chairman, that'll be provided in the analytics that we give you from where we once were and where they want to be. And that will either show in that detail or it won't, but we'll give you the details.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the next budget request is on page 71. It's priority number 4. This is the uranium recovery program step program. If you'll recall, we brought this last year as our exception request. But a little bit of background here, the uranium recovery program, we became an agreement state with the NRC back in 2018 for the mining and milling of uranium and thorium. Since that time, and there are 6 positions in that program, and we've had really high turnover in those positions. So of those 6 positions, the average length of time for those positions is, somebody in those positions was 2 years. And so we hire them, we bring them on, we train them. They go through the NRC training, and then they're hired by industry. So what was requested of us with the industry was to adopt a similar salary adjustment program that we did for air quality when we were facing a 26% vacancy rate at the time. And the way that works is that we would bring the budget for those 6 positions up to MPP. We wouldn't bring the position or the people in there just yet, but we would fund the positions in the budget at MPP. And then from there, we would place the staff that we have there in the appropriate funding step based on their years of relevant experience. So somebody, well, let me back up. So there would be 6 buckets, if you will, and each would be worth or valued at 1/6 of the difference between the min and the MPP. And so once somebody achieves the relevant time frame, 0 to 4, 5 to 9, et cetera, up to 30 years, there would be 6 steps that they could have an increase in salary in. We had adopted that a few years ago in air quality. We saw that in the first year, the vacancy rate dropped by 1/2. So we went from 26% vacancy rate to a 12%, 13% vacancy rate in air quality. So industry had asked that we pursue the same thing. And the reason we agreed to that was that this is a 100% fee program. So those costs would then shift to industry to cover those costs.
This 110,000 would apply this bonus, retention bonus program to all 6 of those positions?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. 110,000 would bring each of those positions, each of the budget for those positions up to the MPP. And then we wouldn't necessarily pay at the MPP. They would pay based on where they would fall with their years of experience.
the NRC training that these positions go through and who pays for that?
Mr. Chairman, the NRC training that they go through is basically all the requirements that the NRC has, and it gets you closer to being certified as a health physicist. And we have 2 of those. The training itself is paid for by the NRC. And if I may have Brandy O'Brien, the Administrator for Land Quality, explain more about how that training works.
Ms. O'Brien, please come forward. Please introduce yourself to the public and the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Brandy O'Brien. I'm the Land Quality Division Administrator. So the Nuclear Regulatory Commission provides training for all agreement state staff as well as NRC staff. They pay for travel and lodging, and then we just have to pay salary on those. And so what that training is brings people up to speed on radiation protection and how to determine whether or not licensees are in compliance. And it can take anyone with the basic sciences degree up to a fairly good understanding of how to apply radiation protection standard and practices.
And Ms. O'Brien, is this training that the NRC pays for, is it open to the public, or do they need to come through a state program like ours?
Mr. Chairman, that training is available only to agreement state staff and NRC staff. They do have training available at cost for industry. I'm not sure if that's provided by the NRC or I know Oak Ridge National Lab also provides some of that training, but the specific training that we receive is only for regulators.
Do you have an idea of the cost of that training for industry? What the NRC or Oak Ridge charges?
Mr. Chairman, I am not sure. I haven't seen those numbers. I don't know what that cost is.
Could you get that for us?
Absolutely.
That would be helpful understanding, if these people are being poached by industry, what is the value of that training so that we can make a better decision on, in this committee. All right. Representative Angelos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going on the 3rd paragraph, and this could just be a typo. The DEQ is requesting this to be effective April 1st, 2025. Should that be 2026?
Mr. Chairman, that should be 2026. That was we lifted that from last year and didn't catch the update.
Follow up? Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions or comments on priority number 4? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just would just reiterate the issue with the retention isn't just with the NRC. It has in the past been with other divisions, water and air in particular. Right now, though, I will say that as an agency, 2 years ago when we were experiencing the difficulties, we were at probably as an agency around 15% vacancy. Right now, we're at about 5%. So we have seen a positive turn there for that. But again, I think it's just kind of drives home the point that we need to always consider the salary adjustments when we can and support what A&I presented in terms of the moving to the 2024 pay tables for retention and recruitment. In the long run, I think it saves the state money, but just wanted to express my support for that.
Director Richards.
Mr. Chairman, due to the correction or clarification, on page 71, DEQ is requesting this be effective April 1, 2026. Is this a request to be effective immediate? It was not in the list that was provided by the governor.
Mr. Chairman, no, this would be on the regular schedule, so it would be effective July 1.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Proceed.
So, Mr. Chairman, the next one is page 76. This is the source material program, Land Quality Division, Unit 801. There is no exception request for this unit, but I did want to bring to your attention that we are working to become an agreement state or modify the agreement state status to include source material. We expect approval as an agreement state in 2026. It's hard to pick the date because we were scheduled to have that in the fall of 2025, but with the government shutdown, that delayed things. So right now, we're on track to hopefully this spring have the approval for the agreement state. When that happens, there was an appropriation to the agency to stand up the program. What we anticipate is that when we when we get that approval, we will make a reversion back to the general fund of $1 million that we hadn't expended in that appropriation. So then, Mr. Chairman, that takes us to the Abandoned Mine Lands Program, page 80. The standard budget so on page 80, the standard budget as shown on page 78, captured in columns 2 and 3, reduces the appropriation from 103 million to 73 million. And the reason for that is there had been some adjustments made to accommodate when we had what was referred to as public facilities funds. There was about a $582 million that was restored to the state over a 7-year period starting back in 2006. But there were some makeup years to help with the U.S. Treasury where they, in the early years of the distribution, we received $0 on in lieu funds, and then they reimbursed us that essentially in 2018 and 2019. And so we had to raise that amount. So that's one reason. The other is there's been a reduction in the AML fee on coal from 28 cents a ton to 22.4 cents per ton. And then there's less, as we know, there's less coal being mined from the peak of 450 million tons around the 2008 timeframe to around 250 million tons today that we're seeing. So that also reduces the amount of money that comes into the AML program. So
I'd like to just discuss this for just a moment. Last year, I had you return to this committee because we had a similar situation in oil and gas, and this reduction led to a need for a fee increase, which was substantial. Just across your enterprise, are you seeing anything that we haven't anticipated for fee increases because of a reduction in federal funds available or special revenue because of a reduction in production?
So, Mr. Chairman, yeah, that increase in the fee that you're referring to was for the Title V program in air quality. And just to elaborate on that a little bit, we met with some of the larger emitters, and the larger your emissions, the more you pay. But we had discussions with them. We came to some agreements where we are with the fee today. We will be meeting with all of the Title V permittees on the fee and having a discussion. Are there changes that need to be made in how that calculation goes and what's the timing associated with that? So I think we're in a pretty good spot there. With AML, that's established, the fee is established at the federal level. So there's nothing to change there. That's how much money we would have available to address subsidence features in the state. And the 22.4 cents versus the 28 cents, the idea behind that was to help the coal mines out.
Did that happen in the One Big Beautiful Bill, or where did that happen?
Mr. Chairman, that happened in the bill, the infrastructure bill.
Infrastructure. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't think we saw anything in the big beautiful bill. The one thing that would affect AML there would be if we see an increase as a result in how much coal is being mined, that will increase the amount of in lieu funds paid out to the state of Wyoming.
Very well. Any other questions? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next one is on page 81. This is priority 10A. And what it is that we have one at-will contract employee in the agency, and that happens to be in the AML program. What we're requesting is that we make that AWAC position a full-time position at the ENNR 10 level. This would be consistent with, they're doing the work of an ENNR 10, everything's the same. It's just that their compensation package is less. So we're requesting to make this a full-time position. It would take 19,000 of federal funds to do that. And then also correspondingly, you'll see in the subsidence loss insurance program, the other half would be made up there at 19,000. And the reason for that, the way this position is paid for is 50-50. It's paid 50% out of the traditional AML program, and then 50% out of the subsidence loss insurance program for AML. And so that's why that's split that way. So, Mr. Chairman, that would be the request for AML on page 81 or priority 10A, 19,208 federal fund. And then on page 87, you would see it again at 19,208 of other funds.
So Director, is there, this is already being paid by both of those funding sources as an AWAC. Is there an advantage moving this from AWAC to state employee or federally paid state employee? As far as for the state, is there an advantage to your department to do this? Director Hibbard, I guess he'd like to opine.
Mr. Chairman, prior to Obamacare, there was a clear advantage in the funding aspect of having an AWAC position because they didn't get medical benefits. Under Obamacare, they received medical benefits. So that shrinks it narrows the amount of money that the state of Wyoming would have to have for a movement of AWAC to a full-time position. What's the advantage? Well, typically these positions are entry level, and entry level positions would be making contributions to the retirement plan for a lengthy period of time. And even expanding the overall number of employees in the plan is beneficial to the plan. So that's the benefit of it. The obstacle that we had prior was Obamacare and not having to pay medical benefits. So there's really a small differential in the cost, but there is a benefit to the plan.
Director, we've had discussions in the past about entry-level employees maybe waiving the requirement for retirement because young people are less interested in that. Have we thought about that in this particular situation? Are we going to have an impact on the ability to fill this position in the future?
Mr. Chairman, I believe that it's in the best interest of the employee, even the younger employees, to have involvement in the retirement plan. I do recognize that, and I've been asked this question myself, well, what would you have done when you were younger? And the response to the question that I had was, I'd have bought fewer toys and made larger investments. So when you're young, that is a propensity that young people have. So I think there's an honest responsibility that we look out for the future of that. And also, it's one of the larger attracting, and certainly I'll talk to this about retention. This attracts employee, but if you are employed with the state of Wyoming for 15 years, and this is just what I call it the 15-year hook. You're going to be very, very cautious about exiting the state government because of what you have in your investment in your retirement plan and how it will be paid out just your investment versus what the overall payout would be. And the greatest advantage the state of Wyoming is we have a defined benefit. We don't have a defined contribution. If you allow folks to make their own investments in their 401k, that would be a defined contribution. The state of Wyoming has a defined benefit. You get rule of 85, you're going to get X amount of money. It's not going to be subject to whether you chose winners and losers in the stock market through your career. You get a defined benefit, regardless of what it is. And I could go into great layers of details about the advantages of that, but Mr. Chairman, I think that probably satisfy your question.
Yeah, Director, it sure did. My question is really about these entry-level employees, and I'd, like you, wish I could go back in time and live smarter as a young man, but I don't think society's changing very fast in that regard. So does this impede our ability to get young people?
I wouldn't believe that it impedes it. I honestly believe that we're doing the right thing for them on their behalf.
I don't disagree about it being the right thing. It's just people make decisions. So, okay, we'll move on.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Sherwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And file this one under, I'm still learning new things every day, and I would love clarification for Director Hibbard. Technically, this is a one-time number, because when we get into the next biennium, the ongoing number would be the full salary benefits insurance. And if I'm reading this incorrectly, this is why I'm asking and not afraid to be corrected. Thank you.
Director Hibbard.
Mr. Chairman, and the Department of Environmental Quality can correct me if I'm wrong, but the aspect of this is to do this now, effective July 1st, if this would change the position classification of this position from an AWAC position to a full-time employee. There are things that happen in that environment, and I think this is where your inquisitiveness is headed. An AWAC employee gets, by Obamacare, we give them the single benefit. But let's imagine this employee gets hired, and then later on this employee gets married, then they get the benefit cafeteria plan selection on EGI, and let's imagine that they have a family. Now, naturally, those rates increase, but they get the advantages of making the cafeteria plan selection as their life cycle goes from entry level to retirement. So there is an ongoing aspect. Now, how does that manage? All of that cafeteria plan selection is managed through the Chapter 17 report. In April, we go out and we ask all the agencies to tell us, what is the cafeteria plan selection of your employees? Some of them go up. For example, I'm Medicare eligible now. There's just things that go on in your lifetime. So there are going to be things that provided this position in the cafeteria plan selection for the future, predicated on the normal rule set of us managing the Chapter 17.
Follow up? Okay. All right. We're getting to the end here. I think you've already described the one on page 87, really. Are there any questions on this and the next exception request? Seeing none, are we finished?
Chairman, I
with your
think we're
exception
at the end.
request? I'm sorry?
Mr. Chairman, I think we're at the end of the.
Okay. Are there any general questions for the director? Representative Haroldson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Director, and team. Thanks for being here. Obviously, we've been talking about the economic development of our state. We're talking about businesses. We're talking about manufacturing in the future and power production, all of these things. And really a lot of these areas, especially in that power production realm, EPA, DEQ, those are center conversations. You guys are tasked with the responsibility of protecting our state, something that I very, very much appreciate and respect. But a concern that I have, less with DEQ and more with EPA, and this is going to lead to my question, is when are we standing in the way as a regulatory agency standing in the way of successfully advancing that mark of energy independence or some of those things? So can you speak to this EPA DEQ relationship, and where are we seeing the federal government standing on things too long or getting in the way in a way where you're like, man, just let us do our job. We could do this so much better. Is there that conflict between DEQ and EPA?
Director Parfit?
Mr. Chairman, really good question. I'll take it from where we are right now. Right now, we have a very good relationship with EPA. The approach is that, and this is something that we've had discussions with EPA, different administrations on, is that when EPA comes in and implements or inserts their judgment for the state's judgment, that's problematic. And we've expressed that. This administration has very clearly, it's one of their 5 pillars, is cooperative federalism. And under cooperative federalism, EPA has its role and everybody has to stay in their lane. If they do that, the states are implementing 90+% of all of the federal programs. And EPA's role is to set the standards. It's the states that would then implement the standards and the rules. So current administration, things are operating, I think, very smoothly. No hesitation in picking up the phone and I get somebody answers. And so the communication is better right now, for sure. But there are things like whether or not we have authority to protect and apply our water quality standards in Yellowstone National Park. We're working with EPA and Department of Interior to develop an MOU so that we will get back to where the state has the lead role. Because right now, the federal agencies are not recognizing the permits that we're issuing in the Yellowstone National Park. We see that as a problem, and we're working to fix that. So, but it can be a problem, and I'll give you another example where EPA had made a determination that we were impacting the air quality in Denver. We were contributing to their non-attainment in Denver. We disagreed with that. We ended up hiring a consultant to help with the modeling to make that demonstration that we indeed were not having that impact. And that's in that particular role, I think there were 22 states at the time where EPA had made that determination that they were impacting some other downwind state. We fortunately were able to actually make that demonstration scientifically that that's not what was happening.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Thank you for that education, because I think that's important. You are saying they have their lane, stay in their lane. They have their role, stay in that role. One of the concerns that I have, and I kind of want to get your take on it, is another thing you said is current administration, this has been really good. They're picking up the phone. We're having these conversations. Where does it seem almost like this seesaw of almost knee-jerk reactions where it's like, yeah, this is great. Oh, never mind, it isn't. And we're kind of doing this back and forth. Do you believe that swing federally is creating almost this rocking ship nausea in the local, on the state level for you guys DEQ. And where's the point where is there a point where, do you feel, and I know we're kind of treading on this thin ice world, do you feel that DEQ has the ability to properly protect the state of Wyoming as well as its surrounding states from the state of Wyoming in that case? And the EPA might be somewhat of a redundancy. I know you're saying they set policy, but where's also the point where we have state supremacy in realm? Do you feel like maybe this is a situation where we see kind of a bit of that battle happening more than should?
Mr. Chairman, I think it depends. There are certain situations where I would say that it's helpful to have EPA in as a partner. And there are certain situations where it's better that they step aside and allow us to implement the program. Where I think we get the most benefit is that we have several associations that we participate in. One of those is the Environmental Council of States. So that's all the state directors. And so you'll get similar issues in other states. And then we can send that message through that organization to EPA, and they're very receptive to that. We have a really good relationship regardless of the administration. Now, whether or not they agree with you is another issue, but so you have that. And then at each media, air, water, and waste, and land quality as well, you'll see that there are associations for water, association for air, and they get a little bit more into the weeds on things, and can try to point out where you're using a model for East Coast states. It does not translate to states like Wyoming and Western states because things are different. The geography is different, and so helping EPA to understand that and make changes, and we've seen that in some instances. The discharge of produced water from oil and gas activities applies only to states west of the 98th meridian. And it's a big deal for Wyoming because we're the largest user of that provision that allows those discharges to the surface because that helps the agricultural community.
Sorry, one more follow-up. Thank you. Changing directions. Thank you for that information. And I definitely would agree and think that's a conversation that needs to continue to happen of whose lane is which and how do we stay in those, and where's the point where thank you for the direction, but stay out of our state in a way, and respectfully saying that. The second would be this: as industry comes in, as industry is working with your department, the EPA and other departments, Corps of Engineers, all of those different people, one of the complaints that I've heard and also personally have is how long it takes to move something through that process. Something as simple as I built a pond on a navigatable waterway. I don't know what you'd navigate this waterway with, maybe like a paper boat, I'm not sure, but it was a navigatable waterway. And then a year and a half later, I got to build my pond. And for me, that didn't matter because nothing was hinging on that timeline being sped up. But if it was an industry saying we need to bring a product to the market for the people, and all of a sudden we are months, years out on trying to get all this permitting through. Can you speak a little bit of what you guys are doing to try be as fast as possible to get from application to building on these projects?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. So we're doing a few things. One, we work with the industry through the different associations. Mining Association, Petroleum Association, General Contractors Association, so that we meet on a regular basis at their request to identify bottlenecks or sore points, whatever it might be, and work through those. So that's one. The other thing that we have is, sitting right here to my left, is the ombudsman. So we have these projects that come in and we can have the conversation around, all right, what is it that you were wanting to do or planning to do? What are the permits that you're going to need? What's the timing of each one of those? And help them through that system to do that efficiently.
General questions for the agency or the director? Seeing none, we'll wrap things up. Do you have any closing statements, Director, that you'd like to make?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, I appreciate the conversation. We've got a lot of great people working with the DEQ, and I think we're doing hopefully good things for the state, but we can't do that without the legislature, so we appreciate everything that you're doing as well.
Thank you. And appreciate your being here, all of you. Have a great day.
All right.
All right, Director Richards, I would like to have a 5-minute break and then we'll go ahead and bring the commission forward that time. We'll run about a half an hour late, so let's take a brief 5-minute break and then we'll get back on track. Yep. All right. I think I helped. No, you said don't. You did not.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the next agency on your agenda is Agency 220, the Environmental Quality Council.
Welcome to Joint Appropriations Committee for your hearing on your budget. Please proceed. And please introduce yourself to the public and to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chair, members of the committee. Good morning. My name is Kelly Doran. I'm the Executive Officer for the Environmental Quality Council. With me today is Shane True, Chairman of the Council, and Barb Wallace from A&I Accounting. I'll just start with a brief introduction to the agency. The EQC is an independent agency statutorily charged with two main responsibilities: to promulgate rules and regulations upon recommendation from the Director of the Department of Environmental Quality, and to conduct contested case hearings arising from the administration or enforcement of DEQ rules and permitting, licensure, or bond decisions of the DEQ, divisions of the DEQ, with the exception of industrial siting and abandoned mine lands divisions. The council is made up of 7 members of the public appointed by the governor and approved by the Senate. Members range from a variety of backgrounds in industry, political parties, giving the council considerable depth of experience and knowledge. The council conducts its business across the state, meeting no less than 4 times each year, up to as many meetings as are necessary to conduct statutory requirements as the hearing examiner for the department. We have only 1 unit with 2 full-time positions, myself, the executive officer, and a business office coordinator. The budget you see before you allows the council to travel to various locations in the state to staff the agency office, to engage professional services as may be required, such as court reporting, and to cover the costs of our day-to-day operations. While it's difficult to know how many cases or rules packages may come before the council in any given year, historically, the standard budget has been sufficient to meet those needs. The council's budget is lean, and we strive to operate responsibly within that budget. In addition to our TRP requests, we have 3 additional exception requests, which I will walk you through, if
Please.
I may. If you'll turn to page 14, you'll find our priority 2 request. This is for an increase to our 400 series for database maintenance and programmer time. This past year, in partnership with the ETS, the agency completed a rebuild of our electronic docketing system. ETS created a fantastic application for our agency to use, and this new application went into production in June of 2025. This exception request includes $3,696 for usage costs and maintenance of the databases that are used for that application, and $646, which is our estimate for programmer time that may be needed to address any corrective measures or updating that may be required to the new system. These services are provided by ETS and billed to the agency. So the total for this priority is $4,342, for this exception. On page 15, you'll find our priority 3 request.
One moment, please. Are there any questions on that priority? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 15, you'll find our priority 3 request. This is for an increase in funds budgeted for third-party hearing officers. In 2024, the council voted to increase, to request this increase so that their more complex cases could be referred to the Office of Administrative Hearings for the appointment of a hearing officer. The council is statutorily empowered to make these referrals and has previously done so, though not for many years. But the current budget does not anticipate the cost of such referrals, and the council voted unanimously to seek additional funds for this purpose, owing largely to the increasing complexity of the council's docket. The council still anticipates that the majority of their caseload will be handled by internal appointments of hearing officers from their membership. So this is really just for their more complex cases. The total amount of this request is $20,000, which is estimated to cover the cost of up to 2 referrals per year.
Any questions on this particular exception request? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 16, you'll find our last exception request. This is for additional camera equipment with active tracking features. The council broadcasts or live streams all of their regular quarterly meetings, all public contested cases, and all rulemaking hearings. These events are also preserved in an electronic record and the recordings are used for transcription. Additionally, we hold virtual or remote meetings or hybrid in-person remote meetings several times throughout the year to help save on travel costs and expedite pending matters. These events can include many different people speaking, parties, witnesses, members of the council, and they're all speaking from different vantage points, which makes it difficult to capture accurately who is speaking when we have a camera from a fixed point. So the new cameras use voice tracking recognition to switch the camera view to the active speaker, similar to the kind of equipment that you use here. This helps us to create an accurate record, which is essential when the recordings are used for transcription, and also helps those who attend our proceedings electronically to better discern who is speaking. This new equipment is compatible with our existing AV equipment and will be used to augment our current camera microphone system. And the cost for the new system is, the new cameras to be added to the system is $9,228. And that is the equipment that was recommended to us by ETS.
Okay.
Those are our exceptions.
Representative Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm curious, where do your meetings usually take place?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Smith, our meetings take place all over the state. Really, it's driven by what the council's current docket is. So, excuse me, if we have a particular proceeding in a location, for example, this upcoming year, we have a hearing that's scheduled to take place in Pinedale. So we might schedule one of our regular meetings around that area as well. The majority of our meetings take place in Cheyenne or online, virtually, but we do try to take our business out to the state, as it were. So we try to have at least 1 to 2 meetings around the state in a year, aside from where the council might be traveling for the active cases that are on their docket. So the short answer is anywhere in the state. The longer answer is it really depends on what business is before the council at any particular time. And then, of course, where logistically we can find space to meet effectively as a council.
Follow-up?
Follow-up, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have you considered using locations that already have the equipment? So you don't have to lug equipment around? And I know there's other commissions that use the state building here, or in Casper, the state building there, or a lot of our local municipalities already have equipment for their commissioners and things like that.
Officer Dren.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Representative Smith, it's a good question. Thank you. Currently, we do, whenever possible, we do use existing equipment. Obviously, the state has a lot of resources, so when we use any state facilities, and we're able to, if they're compatible with the equipment that we need to broadcast our meetings or to record them, we do make use of those devices that are available locally. We've also made use of other localities' equipment. We've held meetings in, for example, Sheridan last year. We were fortunate enough that they made their city council chambers available to the council. And, oftentimes we can either use what they have there or a combination of what they have and what we have. And so sometimes that is available. Sometimes the council holds meetings in fairly rural or out of the way places that are not well equipped logistically for that purpose. And in those cases, we have to bring our own equipment and set up those meetings. So we do, to answer your question, we do make use of that when possible, but sometimes it's not always available.
Follow-up? Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, that was your last request. So any general questions for the council? All right, seeing none, do you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chair, members of the committee. I appreciate your time this morning and thank you for the opportunity to meet with you. That's all I have.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Director Richards, please take us to our next item.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, the next agency for your consideration is Agency 11, the Department of Revenue, led by Director Fanning. and his team, and do appreciate them coming and adjusting their schedules this morning rather than this afternoon.
Welcome, Director Fanning. Appreciate you being here today. You have the floor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chairman, members of the committee. Brett Fanning, I'm the Director of the Wyoming Department of Revenue. Truly a pleasure to be here. I know you've been through a long couple weeks and it's come to the close. So thank you so much for having the Department of Revenue here. So Mr. Chairman, if I could, just a couple brief remarks about the agency, no TRP, and then get into exception requests.
Please do.
Thank you, sir. So the Department of Revenue has 124 employees. And then directly to my right, I have Miss Yvonne Lovato. She's the manager of our Administrative Services Division. And two really important comments about Miss Lovato outside of being our main fiscal person. She is responsible for last fiscal year distributing out just under $3 billion with a B dollars. And so very impressive. That's distributed out by Ms. Lovato and her amazing team. So just something to be aware of. The other point is that she is the point and the lead of our property tax refund program. And we'll have some discussion about that later today. So that's Ms. Lovato in the Administrative Services Division. So Mr. Chairman, I love this opportunity to talk about the Department of Revenue just a little bit, because usually when I'm before you, it's usually talking about legislative action. So thank you so much. To Ms. Lovato's right, we have Administrator Ken Gill. Most of you are very familiar with Mr. Gill because he works with our local county assessors and he runs the queries for the fiscal notes related to property tax. So obviously been a very busy past couple of years for him, but him and his team do a great job. He does a lot more than that though. Outside of that, he's really got two groups. He's got an appraisal services group. And so they're going to do appraisals for pipelines, railroads, airlines, telecoms, private railroad companies, other utilities. Those are state assessed properties. He's also got a group who is an IT team, and they help manage our computer assisted mass appraisal system, the CAMA system that you hear so much about. So Mr. Gill, in addition to working with county treasurers and doing fiscal notes, he does a lot other in that division. So thank you, Mr. Gill. Behind me, Mr. Chairman, I've got a couple of my other administrators as well. So Ms. Sharon Ream, she's our excise tax administrator, my old stomping grounds. And so if you ever have any questions related to sales and use tax, cigarette tax, nicotine tax, lodging tax, resort district tax, prepaid wireless tax, wind generation tax, that's the excise tax division and Ms. Ream. Important to note that just through her division alone, last fiscal year, 1.3 billion with a B. So those are the amount of figures that are flowing through the Department of Revenue each year. So thank you, Administrator Ream. Next to her, Administrator Matt Sachet. He's the administrator of our Mineral Services Division. So if you pull anything out of the ground, so say it's oil, gas, coal, trona, bentonite, uranium, decorative stone, anything along those lines, it's going to go through Administrator Sachet's division. And so in his division, 687 million in state severance tax, and then certifying another 728 million in ad valorem tax on minerals. So the property tax on minerals. So a lot of revenue and money thrown through his division as well. Okay, last but certainly not least, we have Administrator Kendra Reitzma. So she is the administrator of our liquor division. So for those folks who don't know, yes, the state of Wyoming is in the liquor business. We are one of 18 jurisdictions. There's 17 states and one jurisdiction, one county that have some sort of control model. And that is where the vast majority of wine and spirits, the vast majority, go through a state liquor warehouse. Ours is in Cheyenne, just right down the street. If you're ever interested in taking a tour of that, more than happy to help facilitate it. But her division is responsible for purchasing that alcohol, making sure we can account for it. There is a liquor warehouse out there, and then making sure that we're doing compliance with a lot of our retailers and our distributors around the state. So with that, Mr. Chairman, again, it's a pleasure to be in front of this committee. It was actually the first committee that I testified in front of when I became the director, and it was up in Du Bois, fantastic venue. So thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, I do have, I did want to bring up related to kind of the telework requests that you had and the ask. The Department of Revenue, I went back to A&I's fiscal report for 2022, and the Department of Revenue had a 32% turnover rate. 1 out of 3 people were turning over every single year in the Department of Revenue. And it was really tied to 2 specific divisions. One was the excise tax division, my old stomping grounds, and the other was in our liquor division, primarily related to our liquor warehouse. And so fast forward to fiscal year 2025, we've gone from 32% turnover to 23%. So a major improvement there. In the excise tax division, while the Department of Revenue doesn't necessarily allow teleworking except for one HR approved case, we allowed more flexible hours. And that's something that non-monetarily we could do. The employees loved it. And so it's really been able to decrease our turnover in that division. The second aspect of that is in our liquor warehouse. Previously, our liquor warehouse staff were being paid $15 and change an hour. The last couple phases that the legislature has approved have gotten that up to $18 an hour. Now, Cheyenne's still a logistic hub in this part of the country. It is. So we're competing with a lot of folks for liquor warehouse staff. But really, that increase was dramatic in helping sustain and keep some of our personnel. Then you throw in some of the state benefits that maybe some of the private companies can't have. We're getting closer. We're still lagging in that, but just wanted to emphasize, thank you so much for the previous past phases. And the Department of Revenue does support some of the recommendations in A&I and the governor's budget. So thank you for allowing me that, Mr. Chairman.
Director, I appreciate your using ingenuity to find ways to reduce that turnover rate. So it looks like you're still challenged with the over 20% turnover rate. I didn't realize we were warehousing all the liquor in Cheyenne area. And so that has to be transported all over the state. Is that done by the retailers, or is that, does the state pick up the transportation to get that wherever it needs to go in the state?
Yeah, great question, Mr. Chairman. So when we have the alcohol in our liquor warehouse, we contract with North Park Transportation to distribute it all throughout the state of Wyoming. And then here locally, we used a local company, Burtman Moving and Storage, to transport that alcohol. Really want to emphasize too, Mr. Chairman, going back several years, liquor distribution and that logistics was a challenge. It was. But with a new enterprise resource planning system and better communication with our vendors, we've been able to make it so that if you order your alcohol by 9:30 on a Monday, we are going to get it to your location anywhere in the state of Wyoming the next day, with very few exceptions, very few. So the answer is yes. We contract with companies to distribute that alcohol all throughout the state.
So that's included in the cost that the retailer would pay, but we actually pay the transportation costs upfront.
Mr. Chairman, yes.
Okay, thank you. Has there ever been a thought about moving the warehouse to a more central location than Cheyenne?
Mr. Chairman, that has been discussed. It certainly has, but nothing concrete to my knowledge that's really updated that. Yes, there are logistical advantages of it with it being in Converse County and Natrona County, But as of right now, the transportation is in Cheyenne.
Okay. All right. Senator Larson.
Yes, I heard 9:30, but I'm not sure if that was 9:30 AM or PM. And is that 5 days a week or 4 days or how's that go?
Yeah.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Larson, yes, it's 9:30 AM. So if you get your order into us by 9:30 AM, we are going to have it the next day to you, generally Monday through Thursday, because then that Friday.
Okay. All right. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Truly appreciate it. Okay, exception requests. Gonna start getting into those. The first exception request that I'd like to mention for you, Mr. Chairman, is on page 27. This is in our IT division. So the IT division is basically a remnant from the consolidation of enterprise technology services years ago. What it generally houses right now is our IT contract for our mineral tax system and our excise tax system. And so just like I mentioned before, you've got just under $3 billion that are going through those systems. And we contract with a third party to maintain that system, the mineral tax system and the excise tax system. And our third party vendor has raised the price on us. I know you've heard that over the past several weeks. And so this exception request is for an additional 100,000 to cover that increase in the cost for our third party vendor. It's important to note too, Mr. Chairman, that yes, our IT contract is substantial. These systems are complex. Every time one of the vendors, a constituent in your area or a business owner submits tax, we've got to make sure it gets to the right place and with accuracy. And if there is any downtime, it's as minimal as possible. And so if that contract, if we do have any additional revenue from that contract or money left to spend, we use it to create efficiencies, return on investment. One of the ones I wanted to mention was that recently we've used this to add account balances on our sales tax online accounting system. So if you have a vendor in your area, they're a sales tax vendor, and they're an electronic filer with us, they can now go onto our website and see their balance after they sign in with their security settings and everything. What that did is that made it so we did not have to mail them monthly account statements. So when I did the calculation, we were saving about $5,000 a quarter in mailing costs. That's changed. Mailing costs have gone up over the past year or so. But what I'm trying to do with any additional funding with an IT contract is create efficiencies and make sure we're not spending a ton of money on postage, because a lot of our 75% of our sales tax filers are doing things electronically. We're trying to increase the efficiencies in addition to the increased cost with this IT contract. So with that, Mr. Chairman, stand for questions.
Questions for the director on this exception request? Director, I have one. I've used the excise system and seen improvements over the years, so I can attest to your efforts to improve that. As I last used it, I no longer use it, but as I last used it, it was a pretty good program. But I just want to ask you, we're looking at $100,000 increase to maintain the system. What have you seen over the last 12, 24 months as far as the performance of the system? Is it meeting your expectations? Has it been disappointing? Are you expecting this additional cost to lead to improvements in their performance?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Love the question. It ebbs and flows. It really does with our system. Because say, for example, right now in the excise tax division, busiest time of the year, because we've got our monthly filers, we've got our quarterly filers, and we've got our annual filers all coming in. And so if there's any sort of glitch, it's difficult to shift those resources. If there's a glitch that happens right now where I'm speaking, we're going to shift every priority to make sure it gets fixed because all of our returns, all of that money I just told you that's flowing through our system, we need to make sure it comes. Other parts of the year are still busy. We've got monthly filers. But then those are when we can use the opportunities to streamline our operations. So we have a really good partnership with our IT, our third-party IT team, and they do a great job. They really do. If anything, I would say their performance has improved. What they've done is they've instituted an online IT ticket system, so I can actually go through and track it. That's been helpful, so that I can see how many IT tickets Administrator Sasse has or Administrator Ream has. So they are continually making improvements. Part of it is I was the one who maintained the contract and I wanted to see some results. Part of that. But it is important for the taxpayers of Wyoming that if we're collecting that money, it gets back to them. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, please proceed.
Thank you, sir. The next exception request that I have is on page 28. This is our priority number 8, also in our IT division. I just told you there's a lot of money, a lot of data flowing through our system. This is per an ETS recommendation. We're going to run short on our 400 series. So backup, recovery, virtual servers, database services, those costs are increasing. And I did phone a friend for Director Klein's if you have any additional questions on maybe why that
See him back
shortfall was
there.
happening.
Any
But
any questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Harrelson.
Thank you, Mr.
Do we
Chairman.
need
Director.
Do we need
welcome.
Director Klein up here?
What was that? We'll see. I'll ask the question and you guys can decide. It's good to see you. Congratulations. Did you get to see the military museum? That's the first question, and you can answer that. The next question I have is, so we're watching across the board a lot of shift in this concept of cloud-based over servers. So what I was hoping for, and maybe this needs to go back to the director, is this a situation, obviously, you're seeing increased data, which would be increased amounts of need. When was this system updated? Is this server-based? Is this cloud-based? Where are you at on this and why are we seeing that increase?
Several questions there, Director, but
Yeah.
at your leisure.
Mr. Chairman, why Director Klein's is coming up? Yes, I was able to partake in the museum. Fabulous, just incredible. So thank you.
Director Klein? Yeah, hopefully you heard all that. Please proceed.
Yes, so Jeff Klein's the director of ETS. So for this specific ask with the 400 series increases, this is coming from when we started, we did an audit of our 400 series stuff and we noticed some discrepancies in billing. So we are correcting that. And this is a correction and an ask to correct the utilization for the 400 series. So the longer answer is there are several IT asks from the Department of Revenue. There's a lot in the cloud. This one is specific for on-premise servers that we work with the Department of Revenue to maintain.
Director Hibbard.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point out that when we do the Chapter 17, the rate changes that may be driven by economics are handled through the Chapter 17 report. So if ETS changes the rate from $1.10 to $1.15, then we accommodate that rate change automatically to Chapter 17. If an agency is in anticipation of using more units that apply to that rate, then if it's more than $1,000, because we've agreed upon that in prior Joint Appropriations Committee, if that is more than $1,000, then that mandates an exception request for the usage-driven aspect of it, not the rate, but the usage-driven aspect of the request.
Satisfied? Yeah. Okay, very good. All right, Director, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next exception request up for discussion is on page 45. Okay, this is the Department of Revenue's priority number 1 request. You may recall that last biennium, the legislature supported a move to the cloud for the statewide CAMA system. That was $627,000. And I understand I'm using round figures. I understand as the Department of Revenue, every single taxpayer dollar and penny is important, but just using round figures. We got the statewide CAMA system up to the cloud. I remember former Director Brenda Vinson said that I was gonna be done by the end of September. She was almost spot on. It was October 9th. We had our last county up in the cloud. And so this $831,000 ask is for those hosting charges for being up in the cloud. Now, Mr. Chairman, I did have Administrator Gill and his team kind of outline why. Why did we go to the cloud? Why is that so important? Why is that better for everyone to be up in the cloud? Here's a couple just trigger words points for you. Improved protection against cyber threats, right? You don't have the Department of Revenue personnel actually going somewhere physically to a county and trying to manage servers. That's an important aspect. Just modernization of the platform, updates, consistency across all counties, stronger built-in security standards, and just basically improvement for updates, timing, downtime's a lot more minimal. But right now, all of our counties, statewide CAMA system, they don't have to have those servers, although they're temporarily holding some of the servers there. All of that data is now up in the cloud. And so this is for the hosting fees. We did it along in partnerships with our local county assessors. That was a big lift. I think King got a couple gray hairs on that, Administrator Gill. But really, truly, thank you, county assessors. Thank you, local governments. Thank you, Property Tax Division Administrator Gill. This request is not without some prudent measures. That $831,000, that is for the CAMA system to run 12 hours a day. Me as the Director of Department of Revenue, I basically made the decision that we didn't need the statewide CAMA system to be operating 24 hours a day. As a fiscal point. Now, there are times where we're going to shift that burden, but this figure is lower than what it could have been, just based on discussion there. Our county assessors are still going to be able to do their jobs, and we do have some wiggle room. If it gets tough, if it gets to the busy time, there are opportunities where we can turn that on more. But this, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to let you know, was a fiscal request based on the county assessors in partnering with them and asking for their feedback on when the CAMA system need to be available for use. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd stand for questions.
Questions on this issue?
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So first question, 5 days a week, 12 hours a day. Is that the window?
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harold, 7 days a week.
Okay.
Further questions?
Follow up?
Follow up? Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Director. Another line on this, 831-137. As we continue, obviously more data entries increase that amount. Are we seeing, do you feel this is going to hold pretty static, or are we going to see this creep? Is it a situation where as we use it, realize when we need to use it, is that going to go down? And we're like, hey, we don't need a 7, we need a 6, or what does that look like? And at what intervals do you make those decisions?
Yeah.
Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to have Administrator Gill answer that for you if he could, please.
Administrator Gill?
Mr. Chairman, Ken Gill, Administrator, Property Tax Division. Great question. I think with IT, you always see a creep, obviously. But I think we'll monitor that, and we'll monitor usage. You know, we'll be able to monitor, is it being used 7 days a week? We know we have counties that work on the weekends, they work on Saturdays, they work on Sundays. There are lots of instances of that. So we'll be monitoring that to see if that schedule may need to change as we go forward.
Further questions? Please.
Thank you for helping me get educated on this. So are we seeing 23 entries to make up 831-137, or we see one entry to make 831-137? So in essence, could you take and say Platte County doesn't use it on the weekend, but Natrona County does? Is that something where those split down to that level, or is this kind of a blanketed amount?
Mr. Chairman, that's a great question. No, I think it's a blanket. It's a blanket, and it will always be up in all 23 counties. In fact, it's 24. We have a test environment here at the department.
About another county for a second, but we're good.
Okay. Further questions on this exception request? I have one, Director. Do we have, please?
Mr. Chairman, I think that happens automatically because we don't distribute the taxes that we don't share.
So, Director, just to be clear, we charge an admin fee.
From the full distribution of the property taxes. So whatever we have in general funds is not distributed.
Okay.
We can't distribute something that we don't have available. So I guess the key question, I'll phone a friend here too, would be is, imagine that we're collecting $100, but there's an administrative cost on that. So let's say that's $10. So is the $90 being distributed, or are we distributing $100 and having the general fund compensate for it?
I guess, Director, my question would be, that would be paid, this would be paid out of the general fund. I don't think that the property taxes ever go into the general fund and then out of the general fund. So
Property tax distribution goes into the general. It's distributed to the entities that receive it, yes.
let's just get a little clarification on this for the committee and the public. Director Richards?
Mr. Chairman, and I think Director Fanning might, we do have taxes which we take out an administrative fee, and a great example of that is the 4% statewide sales and use tax. And this would work exactly as Director Hibbert described. On the property taxes, however, I don't believe there's any deduction from any of the 800 plus recipients of property taxes.
Yep.
Good to know.
Yep, correct. And Mr. Chairman as well, I think it is prudent because it isn't a TRP request as well. Historically, the state has provided hardware and software to the counties for this system. It's actually in statute. And so historically, that is a TRP request. So the counties do not necessarily pay a share of the statewide camera system or a lot of the equipment used for it.
I just brought up a whole line of questioning with this. So here we go. We have an attestation on the 25% property tax that is coming up. I put out a post and it went viral that people could go and do that. Got a call from my assessor's office on the first day of this opportunity to fill out an attestation. They were not really prepared for that. And they were using a computer monitor and just having the people use that computer monitor. So is that one monitor that they were using, is that what we're providing for them to access the camera system that they would use also for that attestation? If you know, I was kind of curious because I had heard that many counties just used a paper form and then they probably were entering it themselves. But if you could speculate on what I was observing there.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, oh, that's a great question. I'm not sure if we provided that computer for your county. More than likely your IT division of the county did. Most of the workstations that we supply are at their staff's desks. So more than likely your county IT division supplied some type of workstation at the counter, if you will, for that. Yes, there are some taking paper and doing the entry for them. The original link that was on the media that the media picked up on the first day, it was a link that had been taken off of a Facebook post. And so that link actually took you to a Facebook site. And I called the media outlets and I said, okay, here's the actual link to get you right to the site, and it would take people right to it. As of this morning, right now, currently we have around 29,000 folks that have confirmed that they occupy their residence.
So 29,000, what's the percentage of potential homes? And what percentage of time has elapsed? Because I know we've added another 30 days. So what percentage of homes have applied and what percentage of time?
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that question. According to EAD, we have about 175,000 owner-occupied homes in Wyoming. Now, knowing that we have two exemptions out, 50% exemption and we have the 25% exemption. We know that around 35,000 people got the 50% exemption, so they don't qualify for the 25% exemption. So subtract that 35,000 off there. I was anticipating eligibility would be around 140,000. So yes, Mr. Chairman, we're not close.
Is there any plans of the department to try to advertise this in a more robust way? Like I said, my post went viral, but I'm just one guy out there trying to inform the public. It's going to be very disappointing for taxpayers next year if they missed out on this opportunity. Is there anything in the works?
Mr. Chairman, the answer is no. We're doing anything and everything that we can, like in these avenues, but we do not believe we're going to do any sort of advertising outside of what we're currently doing. In internal discussions, trying to figure out whose role that is to advertise that. Is it the Department of Revenues? Is it the legislatures? Is it another state agency? Whose role is that to advertise? And so that's kind of the dilemma we're in right now.
Okay. All right. Representative Angelos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarification for the public, if they don't do it, they can do it next year, correct? On the next.
Mr. Chairman, that is correct.
Okay.
Currently the law goes on forever. So I'm not sure how we're going to handle the second year, honestly. If you've signed up on the first year, do you need to re-up? I'm not sure how we're going to handle that. We haven't crossed that bridge yet, but it is something on our mind. And just speaking of the long-term homeowners, the 50% exemption, we simplified the application this year for that. So that the future years are on our mind, but we haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Follow-up.
Follow-up, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was my next question, is are they going to have to continually do this every year? If there's something we can do in the legislature, please let us know in statute that we can correct that, because that needs to be fixed if we can help. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. We really would appreciate the help on that. Currently, our claim notification page is actually tied to the CAMA system. So if ownership were to change, because we know that ownership is a piece of that bill or a piece of that law, if ownership should change, it drops it off, and that new owner would have to then apply. So it actually, we can kind of keep that database running as it sits and may have the opportunity to not make a person jump through the hoops every year, if you will.
Senator French.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you clarify on the other one, the 50% reduction for the long-term homeowners? Is that just 2 years? We were going to make an effort to make it permanent, but I don't know if we got that done.
Mr. Chairman, right now, current law, it is 2 years. So it was last tax year and this coming tax year. I believe Revenue Committee worked on some bills to eliminate that, but at this point, they haven't been posted, so I couldn't say whether it will go through or not.
Senator French?
You said to eliminate it, the 2-year thing, make it permanent? Is that what you're saying?
The sunset.
The sunset date?
Mr. Chairman, correct. Eliminate the sunset.
So we've got, I believe, a couple of things out there coming out of Department of Revenue. One is that to eliminate the sunset on the long-term homeowners exemption of 50%. The other is to eliminate this requirement for an attestation, I believe. Do you all know what the status of that is in the Revenue Committee? For long-term, or for owner occupied?
Mr. Chairman, for the owner occupied, the committee did pass a bill out of the committee to get rid of the owner occupied piece of that law.
Okay. Director Richards, we probably should make a note of it. We may want to have a footnote here and a possible appropriation for funding of advertising should that revenue bill fail on the attestation for owner occupied. Something this committee may want to take up. Okay. And I think we'd probably want your department to manage that advertising. You would know where it needs to be sent to, you know, what the best method to get the word out would be. So we'd sure appreciate input from you on how we can best accommodate that.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we'd be happy to.
Okay. All right. Further questions? Okay. Director, please proceed.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You can see why I had Administrator Gill sitting right next to me. So thank you so much. So now turning to your budget book, page 46. These are server-related items for the CAMA system, really broken down into two different pieces. Basically almost 36,000. So that first server, kind of in-house applications, tax district management, oil and gas mapping, assessor education certificates, soil productivity, CAMA health checks, department assessed applications, and others. The second server of that is related to a yearly CAMA download, GIS data, veterans exemption database, Marshall and Swift cost tables. So again, just servers for the property tax division and the statewide CAMA system.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative Hilton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Director. So as we look at this, obviously, we were just talking about cloud-based. Now we're talking about server-based. Obviously, I understand that we're looking at a lot of different programs here on the server-based than the massive amount of data for the properties, assessed values, all of that in the cloud. Have we looked at what it would look like to put this cloud-based? And we kind of ran that cost effective, or is it a deal where you're like, no, we definitely want this in a physical form on property? Kind of talked about the difference between why we're doing cloud on one side, but now we're going back with physical servers on the other.
Mr. Gill.
Mr. Chairman, that's a really good question. So the physical servers, it really is for the property tax division mainly. It does, if you've ever went to our website, you'll notice that you can download all the CAMA data for the year, and we update that every early June. So it's those sorts of things that it's being used for. Yes, there is CAMA data on there. Yes, there are cost tables in there that go into the CAMA system. We didn't investigate going to the cloud. We've typically had in-place servers at the department, and we didn't investigate that at all, sir.
One more follow-up.
Go ahead.
Thank you. How old are the current servers and what are we, I mean, that use of life phase, where are we at on that?
Mr. Gill.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure of the exact age, but I was told they're hanging on by a thread.
So with this series of requests, get you the servers up to where we're not hanging on by a thread?
I'm sorry. Could you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. With this expenditure in this request and the one before it and the one after it, would this eliminate that hanging on by a thread comment if we expend it?
It would, Mr. Chairman. And in fact, I would also mention we used to have 3 servers, but we've retired one. So we've managed that down to 2 servers now.
Okay. All right, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, that was our number 2 priority for the Department of Revenue exception request. Turning to page 47, our priority numbers, sorry, my apologies. Staying on page 46, that sand storage array replacement. This is our 3rd priority. Again, related to what Mr. Gill was just talking about. This is the storage system that houses large data sets. And again, all three of these are kind of intertwined together to make it sure the statewide camera system and the property tax division is operating as efficiently as possible. Mr. Chairman, that's $65,000 one time.
Any questions on this priority? Okay, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now moving on to page 47. Priority number 7, this is IT services for $1,200. You know that little S at the end of your HTTPS security on your website? This is to make sure we have funding for that secure pocket. And that's all this priority exception request is.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, Mr. Chairman, now I'm directing you to page 62. Page 62. As you can see, for the mineral tax division, the excise tax division, just TRP as well as for the administrative services division.
Director, are we passing page 54?
Page 54, my apologies.
That's a rather significant one, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We'd like to hear about page 54.
My sincere apologies. You're absolutely correct. Okay, page 54, priority, it's number 17, property tax relief program, refund program. This, it's amazing I scrolled past it because this is the exception request that I heard the most about. It was the one where folks said, hey, thank you, Department of Revenue, for reaching out on the citizens' behalf, asking for property tax relief. Well, that's not necessarily what happened. And I've also heard folks say the governor didn't recommend 13% of your budget related to this property tax refund program. That's not entirely correct as well. For this discussion, the Department of Revenue is the conduit to have this discussion for the property tax refund program relief. So when we met with the amazing state budget department and their amazing team, and we met with the governor's office, we looked at our budget, the Department of Revenues, and said, hey, there's no property tax refund program money in there. And should that be in there? So that's where the discussion comes through. The property tax refund program has really become something that Manager Lovato dedicates months doing throughout the year. And as you can see, we requested for 2 years worth of funding for the property tax refund program. Again, this is the program that has means tests based on your income and your assets. And last year, we distributed out just under $15 million for the property tax refund program, $15 million. The general rule for us is that every 1,000 applications is about $1 million. That was. I did have Administrator Gill run some calculations for me and say, hey, what's it going to be this year? Because remember, we've got the 25% that have now been applied. And for the most part, our property tax bills did go down by 25%. It varies among the counties, but for the most part, it is 25%. So the governor has recommended funding 1 year's worth of property tax refund program. That's what we have here. Again, it's a DOR exception request to be the conduit for the discussion. So, and with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd stand for any questions.
Director, did the governor also anticipate the potential of a ballot initiative passing with 50% reduction in residential property taxes? Was that part of the discussion as well?
Mr. Chairman, I really don't want to speak for the governor's perspective on this. That said, we did have conversations, and I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of moving pieces going on with property tax right now. And I think that's truly the basis of that decision. But again, stand for any questions or phone a friend help.
I'd like to have a short discussion about that issue because timing wise, if you didn't get this account funded until the supplemental budget, would that be sufficient time wise if the 50% off failed to pass and we had a large rise in demand for this program because of that failure? So I don't know if you need to answer that or Director Richards, just whoever can answer that. You know, we're cutting it down from 25 million to 12 million. And that is, as you're described, we're going to fund it for 1 year. And with all these moving parts, we'll see where we're at next year. But does, you know, when, I would imagine that if we have an election in August of 26, it's going to be another year before we see that, that reduction helping the taxpayers out there. So I'm thinking we'll have to revisit this in the supplemental.
Yeah.
But just help me out there on timing wise.
Yeah.
With the ballot initiative.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that centers up on the governor's recommendation for 1 year because we're in flux, but this property tax is coming up as it is now, and we're positioned to do that. And also, as far as, let's say there is a shortfall for whatever reason, the supplemental is an opportunity for that. And we've also had shortfalls in the past that we've come up with methodologies to make sure that those that receive this benefit do. So I think it's spot on to the GOVS rec.
Okay. Thank you for that level of confidence. Appreciate it. Okay. Any other questions on this exception request? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for catching that. Truly apologize.
That's what we're here for.
Thank you, sir. Team effort.
I see Representative Singh has entered the room. We appreciate his presence. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, now moving on to the Wyoming Liquor Division. Important thing to note, as I start going into the Liquor Division exception request, the Liquor Division operates a little differently than the rest of the Department of Revenue divisions. It's an enterprise fund, which is one of the closer things we have in statute to actually operating like a business, where you've got profits and losses. So when I start asking for exception requests, it's going to be increases in spending authority. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to direct you to page 62. This is Department of Revenue's priority number 5 request. And this is a $89,000 ongoing funding for Azure hosting for our new Microsoft 365 enterprise system out the Liquor Division. What's important to note, when former director Brenda Henson came up exactly 2 years ago at this time, the Department of Revenue had just launched a new system out the Liquor Division. It was fresh. It was Labor Day, 2023. Now we're 2 years into that new system. And very pleased to say that there's always hiccups here and there, but the overwhelming majority of the feedback that we've received has been positive. It just has. Same day delivery, better access to finding products online, better customer service, ease of use with the platform, all the above. So when we first got the new system, we didn't know how much data we were going to use. We just didn't. Now, per ETS recommendations again, we've got a much better idea of the amount of data that we're using with that system. And so with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd stand for any questions. It is an increase in the spending authority again as well. Again, these are enterprise funds.
Any questions on this exception request? I'd like to just get an explanation on page 60. And I may be missing something here, but I'm looking at the ending balance on this account. This is your enterprise fund account. The ending balance in this year is incredibly different from the past history of this account. And we're anticipating it dropping off after this, but I see a difference in expenditures in unit 601 on page 60. If you could just explain that to us and help us understand that in case we get any questions on the floor.
You got it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I phone a friend for Director Hibbert on this?
You may.
Thank you, sir.
Director Hibbert.
Mr. Chairman, I would go through see if I can find it. But anyway, the $275 million in this request, there's a standard budget for the purchase of alcohol. We had a conversation with the Gaming Commission about their having spending authority inside of their budget for revenue distribution, which leads the transparency of this to make believe that we have an administrative cost to the state of Wyoming when actually it's associated with the collection and distribution of revenue. So the governor has requested that we go through the process with the SAO to be able to account for the purchase of liquor, and then still the resale will be deposited in the general fund like it always has, but we won't make the claim in the budget that we are experiencing administrative cost to the state of Wyoming for $275 million. So that's the nut that we're trying to crack here in this conversation is it really legitimate for us to message that we're experiencing $285 million of administrative costs when it's simply to purchase the liquor and make it available for distribution when we know where the revenue ultimately flows. So that's my first attempt to explain that, and I'll be happy to go into more detail on that.
I would like for Director Richards to just opine on this a little bit as far as the history and your thoughts on going forward with this methodology.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I appreciate and understand the policy change being suggested by the executive branch. When people think about purchase of spirits or wine at their liquor store, they're not associating that with government expenditures. So the change in the philosophy behind it, I understand. Historically, this has been done through a budget process. Unfortunately, in our staff's opinion, this is a lot like the Breeders' Award, where statute specifically says the legislature shall authorize expenditures necessary to defray administrative expenses. I'll suspend and say, and the cost of liquor purchases. So it seems to us, if the JAC is amenable to this approach, it would be appropriate to have again, one-line bill to provide for funding in the nature of a continuing appropriation.
Everybody understand all that? Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions on, I backed this up a few pages there. Is there any questions where I backed this up here?
Mr. Chairman, and thank you, when the reference is page 76 for your reference on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that. Making a note of it now. And Representative Harrelson, you got all that? So you can explain it on the floor?
Probably have more conversation before the floor.
There's not much time. Get it now. All right. Okay, please continue.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me to phone a friend.
Absolutely.
Any further questions on the hosting charges for the increase in the spending authority for the liquor division's ERP system?
Seeing none, please continue.
Thank you, sir. Next one on page 63 is the reclassification of a position out at the liquor division. This also had a fiscal analysis done by our staff as well. So when we started our new ERP system, the maintenance contract out there, remember, there's always IT fixes. There's always IT things that come up every single day. We had a individual who was very excited about learning the system and doing those IT fixes. And she's gotten really good at it. But what is happening is it's kind of creeping over what her normal job duties are. And so want to give a return on investment here again. So in 2024, we were spending out at the liquor division about $41,000 a month in kind of maintenance and IT charges associated with our system. Since this person has really started coming online, being able to tackle some of the air quotes easier tickets, that average cost over the past 7 months has gone down to $21,000. Okay, so we're saving $20,000 a month, give or take, and it's going to vary. When we're asking for $30,000 additional over a biennium. So within a couple months, we believe the ROI is there. I've actually put the brakes on this a little bit because this person is really doing a little bit more outside of her job duties. And so that's why we've reached out for further clarification from HR, from the legislature on if this is what we want this person to do. But there without a doubt is a return on investment here, Mr. Chairman. With that, stand for any questions.
Okay. Any questions on this comments? I would just say, I'm glad you're making such great use. That's a good return. Appreciate you looking to confirm whether you want to continue this. I would just say, you know, with turnover as it is in your department, I'd be concerned that you go down this path and have to reverse it later. So keep us informed on how this is panning out.
Yes, sir. Actually, very insightful question, because we had originally thought about asking for an additional FTE. And here's where we made the decision where, okay, a couple 100,000 versus 30,000 with this person who can then train people already. So your point is astute. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes. Okay. Please continue. Senator Group.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just for the committee, this has been an incredible lift over, 6 years, maybe even longer. I had a first system that didn't quite work so well, and it was very painful, and a lot of changes occurred, lots of changes, personnel changes, equipment changes. But the folks here now have put together a system that's working. It's incredibly complex. Many different products, and they deserve all due credit, because like I say, when you make an order before 9:30 in the morning, you get it the next day. When you think about the width and breadth of the products that they have to come up with to do that, get them on a truck, get them out there, and make sure that everyone knows, every liquor dealer provides a blank check to the liquor division, signed blank check. So before one bottle gets put on one truck, it's paid for. The money's out of the account. There's no back billing. There's no, forgot to pay you. There's no balance due. It's all paid for before that truck rolls out of the warehouse. So believe me, the whole system is an incredibly intricate dance of how that all works and how that enterprise fund takes off. And when you look at the charts and the money we make off it, it is one of the most profitable things we do in government. But the system they put together is still in its infancy. It's still got some growing pains, but they're doing for the buck. I think anybody in this room would tell you who's involved with the system knows that they're doing the job. So just wanted to let you know. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate those comments, Senator. All right. Seeing no further questions on this particular exception request, please move forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator Grew. Moving on to page 64. This is our priority number 9, farm and shop equipment. This is, that's a system category there, but it's really for tuggers and carts out at the liquor division. Again, spending authority here. It was fascinating, Mr. Chairman. I asked Administrator Reitzma about this. She said some of the carts out there are from the 1950s. And it's, they don't make them like they used to. And so we are really struggling to find some parts for these. And so, Mr. Chairman, there's also additional miscellaneous warehouse equipment. in this request, but it's 103,000 one-time increase in spending authority to address the needs in their liquor warehouse.
Any questions on this exception request? Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One question, how many square foot is the warehouse that we are, that look of the, in the headlights right there?
Yeah.
Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Haroldson, I want to get back to you. on
That's fine.
that.
I just as we're describing it, I mean, so people can get an idea, is this a 2-car garage south of town, or is this a 150,000 square foot facility? Is this the distribution center for Walmart type size? I mean, I just give a context as we're talking about needing to get some new equipment in there.
Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative Haroldson. Yes, absolutely. We'll get back to you. 100,000 square feet popped into my head. So it's a big facility out there. Various aisles, and we go through aisles A through L at least. Anyways, there's 15 to 20 different bays for trucks. Again, it's about 5-10 miles just east of town off of I-80.
One follow-up.
Please.
Thank you for that. The amount of volume of liquor sold out of any year out of the facility, out of your guys' department.
Okay.
Director?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Representative Haroldson. Phoning a friend, 145,000 square feet. So fairly big warehouse.
It's a big 2-car garage.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Representative Haroldson, I recently learned this actually. So each week we spend a couple $1 million on alcohol. And so every week we are buying $2 to $3 million. And actually, I just had Manager Lovato print off the balance. We've got 2.7 million sitting in that enterprise fund. In the next few days, that's going to drop down to very little. So millions of dollars are flowing in and out of that liquor warehouse every single week.
Yeah. Thank you.
I hear that drinking is slowing down nationwide, so maybe that'll taper off, if you will. On this $103,900 for equipment for the warehouse, I'm hoping you can get some reversions and sell some of that antique equipment. Revert that back to the state when you get an opportunity. Maybe we'll get some antique sales.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, one more thing. If you could just give me kind of an itemized list of everything that this will cover, this 103, just when we're presenting.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Harold would be happy to.
Very good. Okay. Any other questions on this exception request? Seeing none, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Moving on to page 65, it's our priority 16. Again, an increase in spending authority, and this is for the scanning devices and the labels out at the liquor warehouse. When we go, again, big warehouse, love to have you for a tour. We've got barcodes, we're gonna scan them, we're gonna make sure the appropriate alcohol gets on the right North Park truck and gets shipped all the way to Northwest Wyoming. And so this is the equipment to make sure that happens, make sure those orders are accurate. With that, Mr. Chairman, 13,845, I'd stand for any questions.
Any questions on this exception request? Seeing none, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the Department of Revenue's exception requests, but I do have 2 items additional with these, if I may, please.
Please proceed.
The first one we did talk about, the $275 million. That's a big shift, big change. There are still ways in working with the state budget department and the state auditor's office to be transparent on what the liquor division is spending. Yes, the liquor division does spend close to $275 million in alcohol in a biennium. It's a lot of alcohol. But again, I just wanted to make that point. The second point, Mr. Chairman, and that was on page 77 that Director Hibbert outlined, is on page 81. And this is a conversation that I heard from the Gaming Commission a few days ago. This is, as an enterprise fund, we make sure every month we send at least $1.5 million over the general fund as profit. The liquor division does have a profit. This $42 million shows up as an expense in the Department of Revenue's budget. And it might be something to discuss with Director Hibbert and Director Richards on if there is something else the legislature may want to consider, because this relates to the gaming conversation that you had a few days ago. And with that, I'd like to phone a friend and stand for any questions.
Okay, we'll start with Director Richards.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this one, both in statute and in concept, is very similar to the payments to municipalities, the LSRA and SFP. Statute doesn't indicate that it couldn't be done this way, so totally reasonable, no issues.
Director Hibbert?
Mr. Chairman, I would concur.
Okay. Right. Any questions? All right, seeing none. Any general questions for the director? You've done a great job to answer this committee's questions. Before we get to your closing comments, I have a question about severance and ad valorem tax on minerals in my county. There was recently, and it's not made gotten a lot of public attention, and that's fine. But there was a mine in my area that got behind on some of their tax collections. The state became aware of it, at least your department. This was before you were the director, and the county was not aware of it. And so some kind of communication failed there. I'm sure that the treasurer of the county should have noticed this lack of payments as well, but she did not. So I'm wondering if you're aware of that situation, if there's been any kind of improved communications between the department and the counties in case this were to happen in the future.
Mr. Chairman, yes, I am aware of the situation. Very unfortunate situation as it stands. Couple things to remember on this one is, so you've got, when you've got a mine, they're gonna owe state severance tax. That goes through the Department of Revenue. And then you're gonna owe ad valorem tax on the minerals, so a property tax on the minerals. That goes through the Department of Revenue, but it ultimately ends up at the county. And there is a disconnect there. And when the monthly ad valorem change was done a few years ago, there are some items that maybe weren't contemplated and is worthy of a legislative discussion there, Mr. Chairman, certainly is. It's my understanding that both sides are working on this issue to make sure that if there is a mine anywhere in the state of Wyoming, that they don't fall too behind on their state severance tax, their state sales tax, liquor payments, whatever it is. So I am more than happy to continue that discussion, continue the dialogue, and work with Campbell County to make sure everyone's on the same page.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. If you have any closing remarks, please give them to us now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I want to thank our amazing staff at the Department of Revenue. Couldn't have done it without them. The last thing, I really, truly want to thank the State Budget Department and the Legislative Service Office and members of the legislature. So many folks reached out to me as a new director and said, I want you to be successful. And it wasn't that they wanted me to increase or decrease taxes. It's just that if there's stability at the Department of Revenue, that means there's stability in the tax collections that are flowing through our department and the ones that reach our citizens every single day. So thank you, everyone, and thank you to the public. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right. Appreciate you being here. Director?
Mr. Chairman, we do have the Oil and Gas Conservation Commission who could present. They only have one non-TRP exception request, or they are scheduled to appear at 1 p.m. after lunch, so your discretion.
I do believe we could save them a trip. I think this committee can pretty expeditiously. We're very hungry, so we'll expeditiously deal with this exception request.
In that case, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, the next agency for your consideration
Director.
is Agency 55 in your books, the Wyoming Oil and Gas Conservation Commission. And before you today is the Director, Tom Kropatch, excuse me.
I'll give you credit. That one's good. The security?
Yeah, give me a brief. No, give me a third.
Yeah.
150,000 square foot where
You could have, I would have called on you.
you have armed cars.
I don't think you would have answered.
Where did you get your tasers?
He could tell you, but then he'd have to kill you. All right, where's my? Welcome.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. My name is Tom Kropatch. I'm the State Oil and Gas Supervisor. With me, I've got Nikki Oliver, who is our Office Manager. Mr. Chairman, if it's okay with you, I'd have just a very brief opening statement about the
Please proceed.
commission and some information there before we get into the budget. Would like to thank you for your time today. I would say that 2026 is an important year for the Oil and Gas Commission. We were created with the implementation of the Oil and Gas Conservation Act. That was on July 1st, 1951. So this is the 75th year of the Oil and Gas Commission being a partner with one of Wyoming's core industries. And so we're proud of the work that the commission's done over the last 75 years and hope to continue that and being a partner with the industry. The commission itself, Mr. Chairman, is made up of the governor, the director of the Office of State Lands and Investments, the state geologist, and then 2 members at large that are appointed by the governor. Commonly, those are a petroleum engineer and petroleum geologist, so people that can that are familiar with the industry. It so happens that Mr. True here in the room is one of our commissioners as well, so pleased to have him here. As you know, the commission is the regulatory body for the oil and gas industry in the state. That includes the drilling, operation, and plugging of oil and gas wells, seismic projects, exploration, and other associated activities. We also have primacy over the Class 2 UIC program. So those are wells that are used for disposal of produced water or other oil and gas fluids and waste fluids. And also includes injection wells that inject water, CO2, or other fluids to enhance or increase the production of oil and gas. And then we also have the responsibility to plug and reclaim orphan oil and gas wells. And so the budget that we've submitted is aligned with those 3 main responsibilities at the commission. I will note the commission does not receive any revenue from general funds. It's all special revenue or a small federal fund. We get a small grant associated with the UIC program. And I believe you've received copies of all of our information that's been requested related to the federal legislation, the telework, and 600 and 900 series expenditures, and would be happy to answer any questions related to those. So, Mr. Chairman, that's as a brief opening statement. I'd be happy to answer any questions or just jump right into the one exception request in our budget.
We'll go ahead and have you jump into the exception request. We'll take general questions at the end.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think in the budget book I have on page 20 is the one exception request we have, non-TRP exception request. And what this exception request relates to is actually required of the agency in our current budget. There was a footnote added by the legislature that said that the commission should create a major maintenance reserve account. The commission does own its own building in Casper. And prior to this, any maintenance or major maintenance that needed to be done on the building, we had to handle through a B11 process. And so this exception request would just create that reserve account so that there is funding there in the budget in case of major maintenance that's necessary on the building. We did go through the state construction department to work and evaluate what that reserve account needed to be for the building that we do own. We followed the same process that they use for all of the other state buildings that they manage. And so based on that evaluation of the building and square footage and facilities that we have, we determined that for the biennium, 316,000, roughly 317,000 would be that reserve account. I would note that that could be funded out of the current, the current revenue that we have. So there wouldn't be any increase in revenue to try to fund that account or anything like that. And then ongoing, we would, if funding was needed, then that would be replenished in the next biennium, but otherwise we wouldn't, this wouldn't be a add 300,000 every budget, Mr. Chairman. So Mr. Chairman, that's what I had. I can get into more details on how and what that calculation looked like to get that amount, but if you have questions on that, but that is our request.
Okay, let's find out. Questions on this exception request? I think you've done a sufficient job and we appreciate that. Can you just tell us when was that legislative requirement created for this, this account?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that was it's in our current budget. So it was a footnote in the 20, let me turn to that page, Mr. Chairman. It was a footnote in the 2024-25 budget in the commission section of that current budget that we're in. It was obviously HB 1. I did copy in the explanation of our request. I copied the exact language out of the footnote into that explanation.
Section 55 footnote 1, I see on HB 1, 24 budget session. Yep. There on page 20. All right, thank you. So that was a budget footnote that required that and you're following through. Okay, we appreciate you paying attention to that and taking it seriously. All right, any other comments, questions? Okay, any closing remarks, sir?
Mr. Chairman, just thank you for your time and thank you also to the budget department for their assistance on our budget. We really appreciate their efforts and thanks for squeezing us in before lunch so we can head back to Casper.
All right.
Not have to come back.
Take good care of that building. It's a nice building. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Director Richards?
Mr. Chairman, I think the next agency will not be here until after your lunch, which is the Wyoming Energy Authority.
Okay, we'll hold that against them, but all right. Okay, thank you all for being here. We'll go ahead and recess for 1 hour. It is basically noon now, so we'll return at 1 p.m.